Chapter 2030. Just as Su Yin was pandering to Zhuolingyue, Poison Cherry, who had been waiting for an opportunity, suddenly made her move. She silently endured everything that had happened just now because it was Sho Fujiwara who wanted to deal with them. She knew very well that they had no chance to make a comeback. And Black Crow definitely had no chance to escape. If Black Crow was brought back to Huaxia, there would only be one result: death. She couldn't save the man she loved so much. Since she couldn't save him, Poison Cherry couldn't let him die in vain. She must let Black Crow have a companion on the road to hell. Of course, the most suitable person to be buried with Black Crow was this Su Yun. If it wasn't for this Su Yun, everything that had happened today wouldn't have happened. Since Black Crow was going to die, then let him die with Black Crow. Poison Cherry's heart had been completely ignited by the flames of anger. Damn Su Yin. Even if we go to the underworld together, I will make sure you die without peace. I'll make you regret what you've done today, every day. The burning anger prompted Poison Cherry to make her move. No one had expected that Poison Cherry would still dare to make a move when things had already turned out like this. Lin Ge only saw a cold silver light flashing past him. Poison Cherry was holding a dagger covered in poison in her hand, and was stabbing fiercely toward Su Yun's back. It happened so suddenly that Lin Ge didn't have time to react. After all, Poison Cherry wasn't an ordinary person. She was agile and fast. Obviously, she was a ninjutsu expert. Seeing that the dagger was about to stab Su Yun, Lin Ge cried out involuntarily. Venomous Cherry's timing was perfect, and her speed was incredible. However, she still failed because she was facing a woman who was too powerful. Zhuolingyue made a careless move. Ordinary people couldn't see what she did at all. However, Poison Cherry had already fallen to the ground with the dagger in her hand deeply pierced into her own chest. Her clothes were completely stained with blood, but Poison Cherry still couldn't close her eyes in peace. She was only a step away from success. She was only a dozen centimeters away from being able to stab the dagger into Su Yun's back. However, Zhuolingyue's hand suddenly appeared and twisted her wrist. The entire process only took a fraction of a second. Then, Poison Cherry felt the pain of her body being torn apart by the dagger. This sudden turn of events shocked everyone present. Black Crow was even more shocked. Poison Cherry actually did such a crazy and foolish thing at this time. What are you doing? The person they want to capture is me. It has nothing to do with you. Black Crow said. Why did you do such a stupid thing? I can't let you die in vain. Poison Cherry panted. I want him to be buried with you. Unfortunately, I failed. However, I don't regret it. I will wait for you over there. Ah, this is also good. Don't cross the line. Black Crow roared at Su Yin. She has nothing to do with what I did. Why did you kill her? Su Yin was really confused by the roar. She wanted to kill him, right? The dagger didn't pierce her heart. Zhuolingyue said impatiently to Black Crow. If you cooperate well, she still has a chance to go to the hospital after this matter is over. If you still have any tricks up your sleeve, then she will definitely be beyond saving. Black Crow said painfully, I will cooperate. I will definitely cooperate with everything you do. I only beg you to arrange a car now, and let someone send her to the hospital. I beg you, don't let her die. My mistake has nothing to do with her. Even those who committed heinous crimes had feelings. Even if Black Crow didn't care about the loss of the country's cultural relics, he still couldn't bear to watch the woman who had sacrificed everything for him die in front of him. Poison Cherry's eyes were moist because she saw his love for her in Black Crow's eyes. Although Black Crow had never said that he was a person who could love, she saw it. This was enough. Because she felt that everything she did for him was worth it. This was enough. It was really enough. Black Crow, thank you. Poison Cherry didn't know why she was crying. Was it because of the pain? Or was it because she was moved? Or was it because of the stimulation of venom? You don't have to say anything. Let them send you to the hospital. You can't die. Poison Cherry, you can't die. You have to live on. Black Crow had reached the end of his life. There was no need for him to hide his feelings anymore. Seeing this, Zhuolingyue was somewhat moved. Fujiwara Sho, I think she is quite pitiful. Arrange for someone to send her to the hospital. With Zhuolingyue's imperial edict, Fujiwara Sho immediately made arrangements. Black Crow was so grateful that he couldn't use words to express his feelings. No need. There is poison on the dagger. There is no cure. Poison Cherry took a deep breath and tried her best to hold on as long as possible. The poison is my own doing. I know. There is no antidote. Black Crow, to be able to hear you say this, it is so good. I can die without regrets. Hearing that the dagger was poisoned, Zhuolingyue wasn't so kind anymore. She looked away coldly. Thinking about it, she was really scared. If she didn't deal with it in time, the dagger would have cut Su Yin. The person who died would have been Su Yin. I think even death can't wipe out his crimes. Zhuolingyue was always so cold. After she put away her kindness just now, her words made people's hair stand on end. Black Crow was in great pain. He had never thought that he would have such a heartache. You are so stupid. It's not worth it for you to do all this for me. It's not worth it at all. I really don't deserve it. It was unknown whether Poison Cherry heard Black Crow's words because she had closed her eyes. Miss Wa, don't worry. I will take care of it. Fujiwara Sho said indifferently. This small matter was not worth mentioning to him. Please go outside. The air here has been polluted by this dead person. Fujiwara Sho's indifference really made Black Crow's heart cold. He had always thought that he had a good relationship with the people in these Japanese organizations. They could earn money from Black Crow, and Black Crow could borrow people from these organizations. Everyone took what they needed. They had always been very happy and had a very good relationship. Until today, Black Crow suddenly realized that he wasn't friends with these organizations at all. He was just using them as tools. He used them and they used him. There were benefits between them. That was why they treated each other with respect. Until something really happened to you, then you could see what a friend was. Black Crow didn't have any friends, not in Huaxia, not in Japan. Therefore, no one would really risk everything to save him. The only woman who would die for him was Poison Cherry. Poison Cherry was also not a friend to him. Their relationship was very strange. Until now, Black Crow realized that he was actually a person who knew what love was. If it wasn't for Poison Cherry, he wouldn't have known that he still had humanity in him. In this way, he felt that he was living like a human being. Really like a human being. Fujiwara. Black Crow faced the indifferent Fujiwara Sho. He didn't lose his mind in anger. Instead, he chose to plead. I beg you, treat her well. Fujiwara Sho frowned. Black Crow, do you think it's necessary for you to do this for a dead person? These words were like a sharp sword that pierced Black Crow's heart. Cough cough. Suyin coughed lightly. This, President Fujiwara, right? I think you're really far from that famous Japanese person who shares the same name as you. A person can be bad, but they can't be completely heartless. Since Su Yin had spoken, Fujiwara Sho would naturally listen. However, he really didn't know who that famous person was. Please enlighten me. I would like to learn from that Japanese senior who shares the same name as me. Mitsui Sho. Su Yin said, that person is also quite bad, but he's affectionate and loyal. Can't you be more humane and agree to Black Crow's last request? Fujiwara Sho, who had never read manga, had no idea who this senior who shares the same name as him was. Chapter 2031. Black Crow glanced at Su Yin, smiled slightly and said coolly, thank you. You are the most broad-minded person I have ever met. I really want to thank you for forgiving her. Don't thank me. Thank her. Su Yin said, Black Crow, you should really reflect on the things you've done in your life. What you should pursue in life is something meaningful, not endless money. There is no end to money, but there is no meaning in life if there is no friendship. After saying this, Su Yin didn't plan to stay in the villa anymore. There were too many people moving things in and out, and they were a bit of a hindrance here. Zhuolingyue didn't agree with Su Yin's generosity at all. If that woman really hurt you, let's see if you can still forgive her. She didn't hurt me, right? Hee, if she really hurt me, I definitely won't forgive her. Su Yin said, I'm not as generous as Jesus. After being hit on the left side of my face, I still have to stretch out my right face for him to hit. In that case, forget it, let's not talk about it. It involves the issue of faith. If we talk too much, we will offend people. Zhuolingyue shook her head helplessly. Sometimes she really couldn't understand Su Yun. She felt that Su Yun was like a child who didn't grow up, but sometimes she felt that Su Yun's mind was even more mature than hers. Why on earth was this? Was this child too mature, or did he really not grow up? She didn't know, and she didn't want to know. In fact, this doesn't involve faith. This is a scientific issue. To be exact, it is a matter of physics. Lin Ge said, the effect of force is mutual. If the left side of your face is hit, then hit back with the right side. Isn't this simple? What's the use of physics in high school? Su Yun. Everything is always hypothetical. Hypothetically speaking, hypothetically speaking, hypothetically speaking, hypothetically speaking, hypothetically speaking, a space without air resistance. Everything we learn is hypothetical. That's why a student like you is born. You only know that the effect of force is mutual. The reason you know this is so that you can sue your teacher after hitting your classmate. You also have a reason to say to your teacher that he also hit you. The effect of force is mutual. Yeah, I think so too. It's too boring. Zhuolingyue was speechless. At this time, the two of them were still in the mood to talk about this. If you want to complain, go back to Huaxia. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. When the matter is settled, I will ask Ting Yuan to arrange for you to board the ship and leave. You will be transferred to the high seas. Su Yun and Lin Ge nodded. But we still have things to do. We still have to go and retrieve the Buddha's head. With Zhuolingyue around, it would be a piece of cake to retrieve the Buddha's head. Su Yun felt very relaxed now. Who wouldn't take a shortcut? Only a fool wouldn't take it. Let me tell you, I'm not your leader once, man. The Buddha's head was not taken from my hands. Zhuolingyue stared at them. You guys go and solve your own problems. I still have to catch the plane. Do you understand? Su Yun exclaimed. I don't. Little mom, do you know anyone from the Okubo family? If you know them, just say hello. Maybe you can do it with just a word. Don't flatter me. I don't have that much influence in Japan. Knowing Ting Yuan is a special case. Zhuolingyue said. He has received my favor. If it wasn't for me, he would have died in the US. That's why he gave me face. Also, it's such a coincidence that Black Crow often contacts him to do things. As for the Okubo family you mentioned, I've heard of it. It's a very powerful family. Also, the successor of the Okubo family, Okubo Chiami, is a very unusual girl. Su Yun blinked. Little mom, do you know Okubo Chiami? Otherwise, how do you know she's unusual? I don't know her, but I can hear about it. Zhuolingyue said. I really can't help you with this. If I could help, do you think I'd be the kind of person to waste time? No. Su Yun shook his head. Then don't talk nonsense, lest you annoy me and drive me away. Zhuolingyue said. If I leave, I'm afraid Ting Yuan won't even arrange a boat for you. He only recognizes me. No one else is good. Su Yun straightened his back. You're my little mom. He can't not even give me face, right? He's not that stubborn, right? He's really that stubborn. If I'm here, he'll give you face. If I'm not here, you won't have any face. Zhuolingyue said. When Su Yun heard this, he hurriedly called out, hurry up and move it. Be careful. Don't leave anything behind. Take it gently. The matter was resolved unexpectedly. Sho Fujiwara respected Zhuolingyue very much. Everything was prepared according to Zhuolingyue's instructions. Before Zhuolingyue went to catch the plane, all the cultural relics were sent to the boat. Black Crow was also brought to justice and had been under Wen Zhao's control. Now there was another problem. Wen Zhao had to leave the three of them. He couldn't continue the matter of the Buddha head. Because Black Crow was a dangerous person, he had to personally escort him back. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at ease. Once an accident happened, everything would be for naught. Wen Zhao had to leave Japan. He didn't want to leave because the Buddha head was no longer in his hands. He really felt like he had done something wrong, which led to this situation. After asking for instructions from Su Yun, Wan Guangxiao arranged for Wen Zhao to bring Black Crow and the other things back first. As for the Buddha head, it could only be handed over to Su Yun. Wang Guangxiao didn't set a time limit for Su Yun, but he told Su Yun very clearly that the Buddha head had to be recovered. It was too important. Su Yun knew that it was important, but facing the current situation, he really had a headache. In Wang Guangxiao's words, you don't have to do things that don't give you a headache. Not to mention a headache, even if Su Yun's head exploded, he had to solve this matter before returning to China. Lin Ge wasn't excited at all. The loss of the Buddha's head was a feeling of defeat for them. When Xiao left with the boat escorting Black Crow, Zhuo Lingyue also said goodbye to the two of them indifferently. Under Fujiwara Shou's arrangement, they were sent to the airport. In the end, the only face Fujiwara Shou could give was to book a hotel and let his subordinates drive the two of them to the hotel. When Su Yun and Lin Ge arrived at the hotel, the two of them suddenly became lonely guys without any help. Now they didn't even know where to find Miss Okubo of the Okubo family. Phew, they would ask about it when they woke up. Anyway, the mouth was right under their nose. The mouth wasn't just used for eating. Sometimes the mouth could solve a lot of things. Brother, what do you think is the probability of us finding out where Okubo lives from a passerby? Lin Ge followed Su Yun into the hotel and said gloomily. He really didn't believe that a passerby would know about this. Su Yun pondered for a while and continued walking with his head down. 0 or 1. Anyway, it's not high. Then why did we ask? Lin Ge didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But if we don't ask, it's definitely 0. Su Yun, don't think so much today. We moved so many things and were so careful. My arm is about to break. Black Crow is really something. He can collect thousands of cultural relics alone. While talking, the two of them walked into the hotel. It was dinner time, but the two of them weren't in the mood to eat. Brother, I don't think we need to ask anymore. Lin Ge suddenly froze in the hotel lobby and pulled Su Yun's clothes. Chapter 2032. Su Yun looked up. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. Wasn't the person in front of him Okubo Chimi? What was there to look for? She was less than 15 meters away from him. Okubo Chimi seemed to feel that someone was looking at her from behind. She turned around and looked directly at Su Yun. Su Yun was stunned. According to the conventional way of playing cards, he shouldn't have let Okubo Chimi see him now. But it was too late. None of them expected to see Miss Okubo Chimi in the hotel. Phew, but it's a pity that such a beautiful girl came out to get a room with someone. TSK, it does make people feel a little uncomfortable. Lin Ge didn't know what to do. Now that they had been seen, it would arouse more suspicion if they turned around and left. Mr. Su, it's you. Okubo Chimi's performance was very natural. She smiled slightly and walked directly to Su Yun and Lin Ge. Su Yun smiled awkwardly. Yes, what a coincidence. You also came to get a room? Get a room? Okubo Chimi was stunned, then nodded. So you came to stay in a hotel. Hee, it seems that the transaction was successfully completed. You also plan to relax in Dongying for a few days? Yes, relax in Dongying and have fun for a few days. Su Yun nodded. Since you want to stay here, leave it to me. After Okubo Chimi finished speaking, she gave a few simple instructions to the bodyguard behind her. Go and arrange 2 rooms for Mr. Su and the others. It's best if they can see the night view of Dongying. They are my friends. Understood. The bodyguard went directly over there to arrange it. In fact, Fujiwara Shou had already booked rooms for Su Yun and Lin Ge, but they couldn't say it to avoid being exposed. They could only shake their heads. No. We can book it ourselves. How can we let Miss Okubo invite us to stay in a hotel? This is not good. Why not? I'm just inviting my friend to stay at my hotel for a few days. There's no problem, right? Okubo was startled. Su Yun and Lin Ji's eyes widened when they heard this. What kind of situation was this? Their own hotel? What the F***ck, this Fujiwara Shou was quite good at doing things. He couldn't send them directly to Okubo Kiami's house, so he sent them directly to the Okubo family's hotel. Is this your hotel? Su Yun slapped his forehead. This is too much of a coincidence. I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. Yeah, I didn't expect to bump into you guys either. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly. Since it's fate, I hope Mr. Su won't be polite with me. You can live here as long as you want. Su-yin waved his hand. How can I do that? That's really not very good. At this time, the bodyguard had already arranged everything and brought a waiter over. The waiter held 2 room cards in his hand. Miss Okubo, I'll take your friend to the room now. Okubo Chimi nodded. And, no, give me the room card. My friend, I'll send them up. Miss Okubo, you're too polite. Su-yin, let's prepare our own rooms. Mr. Su, you and I both know. The ID you used to book a room in Dongying must be fake. If we didn't bump into each other and you used a fake identity to book a room, you would be lying to me. But since you bumped into me and I helped you book a room, then it doesn't matter. Okubo Chimi stared at Su-yin with wide eyes, as if asking Su-yin if what he said was right. Su-yin was really speechless. Yes, that's right. There's no need to be so particular between friends. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly. Aren't all Huaxia people like this? If Okubo Chimi wasn't involved in the smuggling of cultural relics in Huaxia, she would indeed be a Dongying friend worth making. Su-yin could only say that it was a pity for such a good girl. Su-yin and Lin-gu were personally led to the hotel room by Okubo Chimi. After Okubo Chimi arranged for the 2 of them, she very politely said goodbye. Please have a good rest. If you need anything in the hotel, you can directly tell the waiter. I'll let the hotel know. I'm sorry to trouble you. Su-yin was a little embarrassed. Wasn't this a little too warm? It was so warm that it made you feel like you were at home. Then I'll take my leave first. Okubo Chimi said. I still have a dinner appointment with a business partner, so I won't entertain the 2 of you. Go ahead, go ahead. We're already very embarrassed. Su-yin smiled. Okubo Chimi bowed politely, and then left with her bodyguards. As soon as they got on the elevator, Su-yin called Lin-gu to prepare to go downstairs. This was the best opportunity for them to follow Okubo Chimi. Once they missed this opportunity, they didn't know how much trouble they would have to go through to find another opportunity. Brother, he was so polite to arrange a room for us just now and even treated us as friends. I'm too embarrassed to follow him, Lin-gu said as he went downstairs. Don't you think it's too unkind of us to do that? Su-yin also felt that it was quite unkind. I know it's not very kind, but there's no other way. If she wasn't involved in the cultural relics trade, I would be willing to make friends with her. It's a pity. Lin-gu nodded. It's a bit of a pity. Forget it. For the sake of our country's cultural relics, let's be bad guys for once. We must be careful later. She knows the 2 of us. We must not let her notice that we're following her. Su-yin. If there's anything wrong, we'd rather give up this opportunity than let her have something on us. Lin-gu nodded seriously. The 2 quickly came downstairs. After secretly seeing Okubo Chimi get in the car, the 2 quickly got into a taxi at the entrance of the hotel. After getting in the car, they didn't dare to tell the driver that they were following Okubo Chimi's car in front, in case she didn't want to do business with them. Su-yin pretended to be a tourist and asked the driver to follow his route, saying that he wanted to enjoy the night view of Dongying. Su-yin and the others followed Okubo Chimi's car all the way. The taxi driver didn't think much about it. It was lucky for him to meet a tourist. After all, it was still very expensive to take a taxi in Dongying. Fortunately, Su-yin was more careful. When he checked the cultural relics at Black Crow's house, he asked Lin-gu to carry the cash in a small bag. In order to recover the Buddha head, they didn't know how long they would have to stay in Dongying. With the cash on them, they felt much more at ease. After all, the money was enough for the 2 of them to spend comfortably in Dongying. Black Crow was quite a rich guy. He could even find so much cash in his house. Lin-gu carried a bulging bag of money on his back. This feeling was really good. Soon, Okubo Chimi's car stopped in front of a high-end restaurant. Seeing Okubo Chimi get out of the car and leave with the bodyguard, Su-yin said to the taxi driver, "Stop for a while. We're a little hungry. Let's go in and eat something." The taxi driver stopped immediately. After paying, the 2 of them went straight into the hotel. Although the cost of this place was not low at first glance, they still had to fill their stomachs. They should eat. Su-yin and the others asked for a single room where they could see Okubo-chimi's car through the window. Looking at the menu here, they could easily eat 100 or 200,000 yen. It was really not cheap. Chapter 2033. Since it was a high-end restaurant, it was definitely a place to experience Japanese cuisine. Su-yin and Lin-gu relied on the fact that they had a lot of money in their pockets. Furthermore, it was not their own money, so of course they were willing to spend it. In the 2 days that they had been in Japan, they had really wronged their stomachs. They had only casually eaten something at the hot spring hotel. Other than that, they had not tasted anything else. Moreover, because they were pressed for time, they had only eaten simple food at noon. Japan was definitely a gourmet country. Their food might be the most inclusive in the world. There were many varieties, exquisite preparations, and nutrition. It was quite a reflection of ancient and modern culinary aesthetics. Japanese cuisine was both regional and seasonal. For many Japanese, tasting the local delicacies was a very important part of their trip. Whether it was the bento sold at the train station or the exquisite meals in the hotels in the suburbs, many tourists from all over the world yearned for them. However, it was impossible to taste all the delicacies in Japan in one restaurant. Even the head chef of this restaurant might not know all the delicacies in Japan. Even if the head chef could do everything, and Lin-gu had enough money in his wallet, it was impossible for the two of them to put everything in their stomachs. Therefore, they could only try the most unique things. In almost any Japanese restaurant, at least one of the exquisite specialties was stone cuisine. Of course, Su-yin did not hesitate to choose stone cuisine. It was very exquisite. First, it was the appetizer side dish. The seasoning was light and the texture was fresh. It was definitely much better than the 6 or 8 small cold dishes on the table in Huaxia restaurant. Then it was the seasonal theme dish. It was a type of sushi made from sea fish. The taste was not bad. In Japan, this second dish was called 8-inch. Following that was sashimi, the most indispensable dish in Japan. Many Huaxia people had eaten sashimi in China. Some people really felt that it was not to their taste. They could only say that it was not authentic, or that the ingredients were not fresh enough. One had to know that sashimi had to be made with fresh ingredients. Huaxia had too many frozen sashimi, which had completely destroyed the fresh and tender tissues of the fish. And the sashimi served here was absolutely fresh and tender. The smoothness of the sashimi was absolutely different from most of the Japanese cuisine in Huaxia. Following that was a stew dish. The ingredients included meat, fish, tofu, and everything else. The taste was also quite good. Then came the steaming of tea bowls, grilled fish, pickled vegetables, cold seasonal vegetables, shrimp and crab meat, sour soup, boiled beef, soy sauce soup, and even the rice. They were all made with great care. Su-yin was quite satisfied with this meal. It was very good, but the price was really good. The cost was equivalent to a Huaxia section chief's monthly salary. Of course, the gray part was not included. Lin-gu didn't expect him to be able to get used to Japanese cuisine. Bro, I have to say, the Japanese are quite particular when it comes to cooking. Most of the dishes retain the original taste of the ingredients. It's not like us in Huaxia, who use all kinds of spices and seasonings to make things fragrant. This doesn't mean that the people in Huaxia are not kind. It can only mean that ordinary people can't afford such kind of food. They can only eat zombie meat like 1982 frozen steak, Su-yin said. Thank you to the chemical talents in Huaxia for being able to research so many additives that can cover up the bad taste. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to eat when we go back. Lin-gu also joked. Thinking about it, it was true. Huaxia had so many frozen foods imported from other countries for who knows how many years. Whose fault was it? Who dared to say that they hadn't eaten zombie meat? Not to mention that they didn't have it. Maybe the shop that sold skewers a few nights ago used 73 little lambs that had been frozen until now. With more cumin powder and chili powder, it weighed 61 catties. It was cheap and delicious. The two of them had eaten a meal, but there was still no movement from Okubo-chimi's car downstairs. After all, the other party was socializing. They definitely needed some time to discuss things. It was impossible for them to leave after filling their stomachs like they did. After drinking tea for a while, The two of them felt that it was about time. They decided not to continue waiting upstairs. It was better to wait downstairs so that they could catch up immediately. After Linga paid, the two of them got into a taxi. After getting in the car, the two of them pretended that they hadn't decided where to go to play, and began to look at the map on their phones. Of course, Su-yin wouldn't shortchange the driver. He took out a 10,000 yen note and handed it over. He motioned for the driver to wait a moment. This was quite a lot. It was more than 500 yuan. But compared to the 170,000 yen dinner that the two of them had just eaten, it was really nothing. People like to reap without sowing. They don't have to do anything. They can earn 10,000 yen just by waiting. Of course, the driver didn't mind. He worked hard all day and couldn't earn 20,000 yen, right? In this way, Su-yin and Lin-gu pretended that they didn't know where to go. The driver was very patient. Finally, Okubo Chimi appeared in their field of vision. The dinner was over. Okubo Chimi said goodbye to her business partner and got into her car. Seeing Okubo Chimi's car start, Su-yin also made a decision. Let's drive first. We'll take one step at a time. We'll go wherever we want to go. This business was good. The driver immediately started the car. Under Su-yun's guidance, the taxi quickly caught up with Okubo Chimi's car. The Japanese were still very compliant with traffic. They wouldn't flout traffic laws because their family was big, and they wouldn't ignore the speed limit or traffic lights because they drove a luxury car. Therefore, the distance between the two cars was never shaken off. Soon, when Su-yin was about to instruct the driver to turn a corner, the driver shook his head. I'm sorry, we can't go there. Go straight down this street, and it's private territory. The driver said, no outsider's car usually drives on this road. Su-yin was stunned. He pretended to be surprised and said, what family is so powerful that they can have such a large private territory? The Okubo family. The driver said, you're tourists so you don't know. I'd better take you to other places to have a look. Linga said, I'm carsick. I'm going to vomit. Let's walk. When we're tired, we'll take the car back to the hotel. Okay then. Otherwise, it won't be good if you vomit in their car. Su-yin said and prepared to take out the money. Linga still pretended to vomit and hurriedly opened the car door. The driver naturally didn't like being vomited in the car. Even if the other party would compensate, it was disgusting, and the smell was uncomfortable. After taking the money, the driver quickly drove away. Finally, they arrived at their destination. Su-yin felt a sense of comfort all over his body. It seems that the Okubo family isn't simple. Someone has already defined this road as theirs. Su-yin said, let's be careful and pay attention to the surveillance. Let's go in and take a look. You go that way and I'll go this way. We'll meet back here in 15 minutes. Okay. Linga nodded. He was already itching to give it a try. Thinking that the Buddha's head was here, he felt a burst of excitement. The sooner they got the treasure, the sooner they could return to Huaxia. The two of them immediately moved and disappeared into the night in a flash. Infiltration was a necessary subject for them, so it wasn't unfamiliar to them at all. Chapter 2034. Su-yun's infiltration speed was very slow. He carefully observed any places where there might be surveillance equipment. He was very clear that his caution was absolutely not superfluous, and any carelessness would ruin all his previous efforts. Since he had already followed here, he naturally had to use a 100% cautious attitude to solve the current situation he was facing. Under the cover of the night, Su-yun smoothly passed through this section of the road. Lin-gu took the path next door, which should be safer than the one he took. Soon, Su-yun saw the real territory of the Okubo clan. The gate was close to 10 meters wide, and the wall was taller than a person, showing the strength of the owner to outsiders. Japan was just a small country, and the population density was quite high. It was definitely much higher than Huaxia's metropolises like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. It could be said that if the villages and mountainous areas of Japan were removed, the population density would definitely be shocking. Therefore, to be able to own such a large piece of land in such a country was definitely quite extraordinary. A military family was definitely different. Their land had probably been passed down from generation to generation. After all, there was no one else in a country like Huaxia who could live in a house for so long. Just the outer wall of the Okubo clan's territory was enough to make Su Yin sigh in amazement. With the help of the knight, just by relying on the length of the wall, which was close to 100 meters, the inside of the wall was at least a few hundred acres. A standard football field was only about 10 acres, which meant that the Okubo clan's land was as big as a few dozen football fields. This concept was too terrifying. A few hundred acres of land was enough to build a high school that could accommodate thousands of people. Moreover, it was the kind of high school that had all kinds of facilities. The Okubo clan was just that powerful. Just when Su Yin was wondering if he could find a chance to climb over the wall to take a look, he heard the breathing of several large dogs and the ringing of bells on their necks. Other than the dogs, there was no human sound. They were probably trained to guard the house, and were even responsible for patrolling at night. Letting the dog act as a good helper to guard the house was definitely more reliable than the two guards at the door. When Su Yin came over earlier, he noticed the two guards standing guard at the door. One of them had fallen asleep on the table, while the other was standing on the other side, playing with his phone. He seemed to be watching a Korean drama. The conversation between Appa and Anasan could be heard faintly from the phone. Dogs were far more sensitive to smells than humans. Su Yin knew that he absolutely could not take this risk. He had to evacuate first, otherwise it would attract the attention of the dogs and cause some unnecessary trouble. Moreover, he and Lin Gu had agreed to return in 15 minutes. Now that 10 minutes had passed, he should go back. Retreat. Su Yin made a prompt decision. When the patrolling dogs in the yard noticed the abnormality and stopped, Su Yin quickly withdrew. These dogs were all purebred German shepherds and well-trained. After noticing the abnormality, they immediately approached the place where Su Yin had just stopped. Fortunately, Su Yin evacuated in time, and did not attract the attention of the dogs. The dogs soon went on the road again. Although they couldn't see what was going on inside, Su Yin didn't come in vain. At least, he knew that there were a few very competent watchdogs. When Su Yin returned, Lin Gu also returned. Lin Ji's expression was also surprised. Brother, this Okubo family is too bad *SS. Their yard is too big. I also heard dogs patrolling inside. *MN, this is really good. Even if a paratrooper were to descend from the sky, he would be instantly killed by those dogs. Do you think this is a game of red alert? Paratroopers, Su Yin said helplessly. If we want to go in, the first thing we have to do is to deal with those dogs. Otherwise, not to mention the Buddha's head, we can't even see the people. Let the dogs deal with them first. Lin Gu said, this is easy. Get some ham sausages, stuff a large dose of sleeping pills in it, and throw it directly in. I don't believe that these dogs won't sleep to death. Do you think that this is a dog trafficker abducting dogs in the countryside? Ham sausages. Not to mention that these dogs are well trained. They must have received training not to eat handouts. Even if they haven't been trained, the dogs of this kind of big family usually eat steak, pork, chicken, roast duck, and so on. Su Yin. If you throw the ham sausages, they definitely won't eat it. Even if they eat it, they can smell the medicine inside and spit it out. Lin Gu listened and was stunned. Is it so exaggerated? You said that dogs are smarter than people. Now many people don't know that they can't eat meat that falls from the sky. These dogs are really smarter than people. Do you know the dogs trained in our army? Even if you give them the best Australian steak, they won't eat it. They salivate so much that they drown their hooves, but they definitely won't eat a bite. Su Yin. They only eat the food given to them by their trainers, even if it's a hard steamed bun. They are really smart. Lin Gu didn't believe it. I still think that it's not tempting enough. The ancients said that dogs can't change their habit of eating shit. There must be something that they can't refuse. Su Yin said in disgust. You're going to use shit as bait? The taste is really strong. My master used to like to cook a dish. He named it Fragrant Dead Dog. Lin Gu said. No dog can resist the temptation of that smell. I'm going to do it too. Then I'll soak the ham sausages in it. When the smell is mixed, I'll add the sleeping pills. I don't believe that they won't eat it. Of course. I'll prepare this thing tomorrow. I promise to take down these dogs tonight. Lin Ge said confidently. I can even make a military order. It'll definitely be done. Is it really okay? Su Yan still couldn't believe it, but at this juncture, they had to try any method that might have hope. Otherwise, how could they deal with these dogs? Even if they went in at the fastest speed and killed them all, they couldn't guarantee that one of them wouldn't suddenly roar out. This risk was too big. They couldn't take it. Once the dogs barking disturbed the other party, they would realize that so many dogs were killed in their own home. They would definitely know that something was wrong. Don't worry. Tomorrow, we'll buy ingredients and borrow the kitchen of the hotel's F&B department. I'll definitely get it done for you, Lin Ge said. Su Yan nodded. Let's take it one step at a time. Maybe Lin Ge really had this level. If it was really done, then they could sneak in directly. If everything went well, they could leave with the Buddha's head tomorrow. Before the two returned to the hotel, they bought a lot of sleeping pills from a pharmacy. Fortunately, Dongying wasn't as strict as Huaxia. The sleeping pills they bought were rationed. They were afraid that someone would take this thing and commit suicide. They didn't think that if a person really wanted to die, he could buy one pill a day. The amount he saved for half a year was enough to kill him. There were differences in national conditions. Many regulations were different. This was normal. The Dongying people were so perverted. Even if they wanted to die, they wouldn't choose such an unartistic death. They would definitely make it colorful. This way, they could show that they were Dongying people and were different from normal people from other countries. But then again, no matter which country, anyone who committed suicide was not a normal person. It was better to live than to die. If you died, you wouldn't even have a chance to breathe. How uncomfortable would that be? Chapter 2035. The next morning, Lin Ge went to the supermarket and bought all the ingredients and seasonings he needed. He also bought a pure meat and starch-free ham sausage, although he didn't know if Japanese ham sausage was the same as Huaxia's. It was advertised as having no starch, but flour was added. Because Okubo Chiami had already informed him, Lin Ge was very happy when he went to the F&B department to borrow the kitchen. The head chef said that no matter what they wanted to eat, he could help them make it. But Lin Ge said that if he wanted to eat something, it would be more reliable if he made it himself. Then Lin Ge spent nearly 2 hours making this top-notch vegetable soup. It was so fragrant. It had to be said that although Lin Ji's dish didn't look good, the taste was really amazing. The fragrance shocked the head chef. If this vegetable sauce soup was poured on the noodles, how delicious would it be? Lin Ge didn't waste this delicious food. After cooking the noodles with water, he poured the soup and food on it, and brought it directly to Su Yan's room. The two of them each had a portion. They only needed to keep the 10 sausages and eat the rest. You're giving me fragrant dog? Su Yan was stunned. The taste was indeed fragrant, but wouldn't eating this be admitting that he was a dog? This dish name was too indecent. Brother, this dish name is more righteous than gubuli bun. If you don't eat that thing after seeing it, you're a dog. If you don't die from the fragrant smell I made, it means you're not a dog. Lin Ge smiled. Just taste it carefully. It's definitely strong enough. Su Yan smiled bitterly. I think it's quite strong. I'm almost drooling just from smelling it. When the time comes, this thing of yours won't attract the dogs, but the guards first. This ham meal won't have such a strong smell when it's dried at night, but dogs have sharp noses. They'll definitely smell it. Lin Ge said. Don't worry, I guarantee that this thing will definitely make those dogs lie down. I bought an injection needle. In a while, I'll dissolve the sleeping pills in hot water and inject it directly into the ham. You little brat, aren't you? You gave other people's dogs water intestines. Su Yan smiled. However, this was a good trick. It was estimated that 1 intestine per dog would be enough to make them lie down. Lin Ge had used half a cup of hot water to melt 300 sleeping pills. He was worried that the dosage would not be enough. Those dogs would be fine after eating it. In fact, with this dosage, it would be considered lucky if the average dog did not die after eating it. With all the preparations in place, the two of them waited for the dark and windy night. Waiting was the most troublesome thing, but fortunately, It gave the two who didn't sleep well last night enough time to catch up on their sleep in the afternoon. Finally, when the sky was completely dark, the two of them began to prepare to work. According to the timing, the two of them successfully reached a safe position. Now what they had to do was to wait for those puppies to take the bait. The heavens did not disappoint those who persevered. The few dogs finally arrived on patrol. Su-Yun and Lin-Ge did not hesitate. They immediately threw the 10 sausages into the high wall. At first, the sounds of the few dogs disappeared directly. Their vigilance was still quite high. Lin-Ge was very confident in waiting for the dogs to be drugged. Su-Yun was still quite worried. He asked Lin-Ge to be prepared to run at any time. In case the dogs were very unyielding, in case the dogs resisted the temptation and barked wildly to inform their owners, they had to escape the scene immediately. Fortunately, dogs were dogs after all. When this kind of fragrance that they could not resist was stimulated by this kind of unbearable fragrance, the few well-trained dogs really ate it. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were well-trained. 5 dogs, 2 sausages per dog. No one ate more, and no one ate less. After eating, there was a dog that still wanted more and made a coquettish moan. It seemed that it had never eaten such delicious food in its life. Of course, this thing was delicious. With so many seasonings, it could directly spoil these dogs' mouths. Soon the first dog fell, followed by the other 4 dogs who could not withstand the test of the sleeping pills. They all fell to the ground. As the sound disappeared, Lin-Ge knew that his ham meal tactic was successful. Su-Yun calculated the time of the rotation of the surveillance camera and quickly flipped over the wall to take a look. The 5 dogs were all lying on the ground and completely motionless. "You go back to the hotel and wait for me," Su-Yun said to Lin-Ge. "If I don't return to the hotel after 2 hours, it means that there is a problem. You have to leave the city immediately and contact the higher-ups to explain the situation." "Bro, let me scout ahead first. If anything happens to me, you can explain it to the higher-ups." "What if you pooey my mouth?" Lin-Ge said. "I'm just afraid that I won't be able to explain it to the higher-ups. Let's switch." Su-Yun did not give Lin-Ge room to negotiate. "This is an order. Leave immediately. I will go in first. The surveillance camera will be back soon." After Su-Yun finished speaking, he went directly into the Okubo family's courtyard. Lin-Ge could only follow Su-Yun's instructions now. He had to go back to the hotel and wait for the news. Su-Yun calculated the time. He had to find the Buddha's head within 80 minutes, and then the remaining 40 minutes were enough for him to rush to the hotel and meet with Lin-Ge. He did not let Lin-Ge choose another place to wait. The main reason was that he could find Lin-Ge as soon as possible after he got the Buddha's head. Moreover, the hotel was safer than outside the Okubo family's residence. That way, they could leave as soon as possible and not give Okubo Chimi time to react. After Su-Yun entered the high wall, he realized that it was quite complicated inside. If only he had the layout of this place, he would not have to waste time figuring out which room was the cultural relic collection room. In this regard, Su-Yun was quite experienced. According to normal analysis, rich people would have a large study room, which was quiet and classy. And this study room often had a secret door that led to the collection room. The most valuable treasures were often hidden in the collection rooms that never saw the light of day. Rich people liked to collect these things. Sometimes it was not because they liked it, but simply to spend money. To be able to make so much money, it must be very stressful. And spending money was a very good way to reduce stress. For example, many high-ranking white-collar workers in big cities now earn 300,000 to 500,000 yuan a year, but their consumption was also quite high. 3 meals a day, coffee, and a night at the bar sometimes cost over 1,000 yuan, but they would still be like this. This was because even if they spent a large part of their income in a year, the remaining income was still more than the average person. In 3rd or 4th tier small cities, it was very impressive to earn tens of thousands of yuan without eating or drinking for a month. And these high-ranking white-collar workers in big cities spent all kinds of parties every day, and they could still save 10,000 yuan. Of course, they would use consumption to reduce stress. There was a saying that the money in the hand was not called money, it was called numbers. The money spent was called money. The consumption concept of high-ranking white-collar workers was still very correct. Only consumption could stimulate them to work hard and make money. If they could not spend 1,000 yuan a month, what was the point of working hard to earn 20 or 30,000 yuan? Working hard was to live in a big house and drive a good car. It was a very realistic question. Money was not saved. Those who relied on saving money to be rich would always be poor. Money was earned. Only by constantly giving oneself motivation and pressure could they make more money. In order to give themselves motivation, white-collar workers with an annual salary of 300,000 yuan would spend 500,000 yuan to buy a car, and bosses with an annual income of 3 million yuan would spend 5 million yuan to buy a house. As for Okubo Chimi, who had countless assets, she would spend 300 million yuan to buy a cultural relic, appreciate it, and put it away. This was to reduce her stress, but also to give her motivation and pressure. It was that simple. Chapter 2036. Those who were rich could be willful. Those who liked to say this often weren't rich people. Those who were truly willful were people like Okubo Chimi. Her willfulness was something she did with her actions, not something she said casually. Su Yin continued to search for the location of the study. Based on his shallow knowledge of Japanese mansions, he could only make guesses. In such a large courtyard, the study was obviously not an ordinary 3-bedroom house. The living room was definitely an independent entity. If he didn't even know this, Su Yin wouldn't be able to survive. He made a simple judgment based on the possible habits of Japanese, and determined the location of the study. Suddenly, the sound of 2 people talking in the distance disturbed Su Yin. Su Yin quickly hid in the dark. The 2 Japanese chatted as they walked to Su Yin's location. "It's about your mother's illness. You can mention this to Miss Okubo. She knows about your difficulties, and will definitely give you an advance on your salary." One of them said, "You've been working here for many years. Don't you know what kind of person Miss Okubo is?" I know that Miss Okubo is a good person. She definitely won't leave someone in the lurch." The other person said, "But if I borrow this fee from Miss Okubo, how can I pay her back?" The first person seemed to be quite dissatisfied with the second person's stupid question. "If you go out and borrow from a loan shark, you won't be able to pay it back. The interest will compound and you won't be able to bear it. Even the interest will crush you. Miss Okubo won't ask you for interest. You can discuss it with her and deduct some from your salary every month." "Deduct my salary? Every month?" The second person was a little hesitant. Obviously, he didn't know what it meant to pay in installments. In fact, there were quite a lot of Asians who didn't know what it meant to pay in installments. Young people nowadays were a little better. They all knew that things that cost a few thousand yuan would be divided into 9 or 12 installments. Some old-fashioned people didn't think it was necessary. They felt that if they couldn't afford it, then they shouldn't buy it. Ordinary things weren't like houses. They couldn't afford it immediately, so they had to take a loan. In fact, installment was a trigger for the economy, and also a stimulus for the consumer's spending power. 90% of Asians, especially Huaxia, would think that loans were a burden, and that the interest was a waste of money. Actually, that was not the case. It was just like looking at the whole world. Huaxia people all saved money. Those who had a little money saved a few million, and those who did not have a little money saved hundreds of thousands. No matter how much money they had, they would stop saving and start doing other things. They would start taking loans. Then they would start to have huge wealth. They would pay interest every month and live a good life. In fact, many people spent money from the bank. In Huaxia, many people would find a very strange thing. Only rich people could borrow a lot of money from the bank, and only rich people would owe the bank a lot of money. In the end, it was these rich people who couldn't pay it back and made the bank admit that they were unlucky. It was strange, wasn't it? Ordinary people who earned 3,000 a month and had to pay 2,000 for the mortgage didn't owe the bank a penny. They thought that it was a principle to pay back the money. In fact, this concept was similar to that of Europeans and Americans. It was just that Europeans and Americans preferred to borrow the bank's money to enjoy life in advance, and then stimulate their motivation to make money. This was the life of ordinary people. Their rich and famous people were the same as Hwasia. They didn't need to take loans. If you can't speak, I'll help you talk to Miss Okubo. The first person said again. Don't hesitate. If you hesitate again, your mother's operation will be delayed. The second person finally mustered up his courage. Okay, then I'll go talk to Miss Okubo now. You go to the study. I just saw her go there. The first person said. Remember to say it properly. Don't worry, Miss Okubo is a kind person. She will definitely help you. Your number is too big. I really can't help you. Don't mind. The second person nodded and expressed understanding. Hearing these words, Suyin immediately raised his attention to the two people. Okubo was in the study. If she was in the study at this time, in addition to reading, there was probably one other thing, and that was to appreciate the cultural relics collected in the study. It must be like this. Suyun's mood was already very excited, and now he didn't need to guess. As long as he secretly watched this person, he could determine where the study was. The person's footsteps didn't disappoint Suyun at all. Soon he walked to the study that Suyun had predicted. Because all the rooms in the entire courtyard were paved with wooden planks, the wooden clogs on the feet of the Japanese clicked as they walked. Suyun could distinguish the direction by the sound at all. Yes, this was the place. Suyun jumped lightly and let himself sneak on the roof. After quickly observing the situation and making sure that no surveillance equipment would detect his figure, Suyun quietly went to the top of the study. The Japanese who asked Okubo for help carefully knelt cross-legged at the door of the study and gently knocked twice. Sure enough, Okubo was in this room. Who is it? Didn't I say not to disturb me when I'm reading? Miss Okubo, I'm Jianchuanjiro. I really have no other way, so I'm disturbing you. The Japanese at the door bowed deeply through the door. Okubo got up and walked to the door of the study and opened it. Although her tone was a little unhappy just now, she didn't mind when she heard that the other party had no other choice. What do you need me to help you with? Don't be polite, just say it. Miss Okubo, I want to ask you to lend me 15 million yen. My mother is going to have heart surgery soon, and I really don't have that much money, the man said. So I want to ask you to lend me the money. In the future, you can deduct 300,000 yen from my monthly salary as repayment. I'll pay you back as soon as possible in a few years. Your mother is going to have heart surgery? Okubo was slightly startled. I'm sorry, Miss Okubo. I know that I've been distracted by work during this time, because there are too many things at home. I beg you to give me a chance to correct myself. I won't let you down. Jianchuanjiro bowed and kowtowed again. Okubo's expression eased a lot. Tomorrow, I'll tell the housekeeper to get the money from him. As for the matter of returning the money, wait until your mother's body recovers. After the surgery, she needs nourishment to nourish her body. Your monthly salary is less than 400,000 yen. If you want to return 300,000 yen to me, then you can't guarantee a living. Hearing this, the other party bowed and kowtowed even more sincerely. Miss Okubo, I'll definitely repay your kindness, even if I have to be an ox or a horse for the rest of my life. Thank you so much. Don't be so polite. Saving people is more important. If there's nothing else, you can go back first. Okubo smiled. Yes. I've disturbed your reading. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. Jianchuanjiro bowed his head and apologized as he got up and retreated. He was the gardener of Okubo's family, and was responsible for taking care of the flowers and plants in the courtyard. He didn't expect that Okubo would trust him so much with his identity. When he left, Okubo Chiaki didn't seem to have any intention of reading. She stretched, put on her clogs, closed the door, and left. Suyun had been watching from the room, watching Okubo Chiaki return to her own room. Chapter 2037. After Suyun witnessed this incident with his own eyes, he was a little embarrassed to lay his hands on Okubo Chimi. This girl was not only so comfortable, but also so kind. She treated a servant in her family. Not only did she not get angry because he disturbed her reading, but she also decisively lent him money for relief. Most importantly, Okubo Chimi also took the initiative to not let the other party pay back the money, for the sake of the other party's mother's health. Such a kind person. Phew. Su-yin felt a sense of guilt. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't recognize the golden Buddha head, Su-yin would have been a little soft-hearted. Helpless, no matter how kind and excellent she was, no matter how reluctant people were to provoke her, she was still involved in this cultural relic transaction. Su-yin had a headache, but when Okubo Chimi entered the room, the huge courtyard quieted down, and he directly sneaked into Okubo Chimi's study. The study area was quite large, and the 3 bookshelves were filled with all kinds of famous books from ancient and modern times, and a considerable number of them were in Chinese. It seemed that Okubo Chimi was really interested in Huaxia culture. In addition, there were all kinds of economic books, all kinds of thick black books, and many kinds of books. In the study, on the luxurious gold-rimmed Phoebe desk, there was an introductory German teaching book, which seemed to be what she was reading just now. Okubo Chimi's eagerness to learn and seek knowledge was really a model for too many beautiful girls today. Nowadays, many social behaviors instilled a kind of idea in beautiful girls. As long as they were beautiful, of course, natural ones were the best, and post-processing was also okay. Anyway, as long as they were beautiful, they could get along well. There were too many paths that beautiful girls could take, so the concept of relying on their own efforts to exchange for their own future was more and more despised. There were too many girls who could solve all their problems as long as they were beautiful. Why did they have to put in so much effort to study? Why did they have to master so much knowledge? This was the inner world of many beautiful girls, and even some of their parents thought so. As long as they married well, everything was settled, and nothing else mattered. So investing so much money on children was even better than investing in plastic surgery. Huaxia had so many plastic surgery and beauty agencies that were so popular. Even if there were so many medical accidents, it would not stop some girls from getting plastic surgery and getting hyaluronic acid injections. It was because of this idea. They really should have come here to take a look. She was 100 times more beautiful than them, 1,000 times richer than them, and 10,000 times more hardworking than them. Su-yin had to admit that this Japanese girl had won her respect. Other than the books, Su-yin did not find any other artifacts. He tried to look for a mechanism, but based on the structure of the room, it was unlikely that the mechanism was on the side. Because Su-yin had observed the surroundings, there were no extra rooms. Therefore, the mechanism must be on the ground. It was an underground chamber. After Su-yin prepared the direction, he began to study. He had already spent half an hour. Now he had to know how much time was left before he had to leave. Su-yin had almost exhausted all of his experience, but he still couldn't find the entrance to a secret room. There was only one answer, and that was everything was not what Su-yin thought at all. This study was a simple study, nothing special. It was just a room for Okubo to learn knowledge. There were no artifacts at all. Su-yin was a little disappointed. Could it be that the movies he watched were all deceptive? Not every rich man's study has a secret room. F***ck. The movies were harmful. They wasted more than 10 minutes of Su-yin's time. Now the most likely place to store the Buddha's head was probably Okubo Chiaki's bedroom. Su-yin took a deep breath. She thought about it, and this was the most likely situation. If such a valuable thing was not placed in a secret room, it must be by her side, or there was a secret room in Okubo Chiaki's bedroom, which was safer. After confirming his thoughts, Su-yin was a little unsure as to whether or not he should investigate this matter thoroughly. In the end, Su-yin decided that no matter if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, he had to take a look. Otherwise, today's sneak-in would be in vain. After a simple understanding outside, Su-yin quickly figured out the layout of Okubo Chiaki's bedroom. The layout was very large, and there was a separate hot spring inside. The hot spring extended from the room, completely outdoors. People who didn't enter the room wouldn't know, but Su-yin could observe it from the top of the building. What made Su-yin feel that there was an opportunity was that at this time, Okubo Chiaki was soaking in the hot spring. He didn't dare to look, for fear of being discovered, but he could hear the sound. Okubo Chiaki was singing in a low voice, enjoying the nourishment of the hot spring. This feeling really gave people a kind of surging blood. There was a saying that a wife was not as good as a concubine. A concubine was not as good as a prostitute. A prostitute was not as good as stealing, and stealing was not as good as not being able to steal. Now, Soo-Yun had a feeling that he couldn't steal it. The main reason was that Soo-Yun had seen Okubo Chiaki's tall figure and white face with his own eyes. Any man in this situation would have a certain fantasy, which was normal. When Soo-Yun was sure that Okubo Chiaki wouldn't return to the room in a short time, he quietly pushed the door open and entered. Okubo Chiaki's room was not the kind of girl's boudoir that he imagined. Her room had a somewhat antique feel. That kind of neo-Chinese retro style really matched her study. One must know that this style, even in Huaxia, was liked and appreciated by successful men in their 40s or 50s. And the kind of kawaii feeling that Japanese girls gave people really made people feel that this style didn't match. But it had to be said that Okubo Chiaki's taste was very high. The taste of the things she chose was quite good, and could even be said to be very artistic. Soo-Yun looked around the whole room, but still didn't see the golden Buddha's head. Phew, this little girl hid things really well. It really made Soo-Yun unable to do anything. Soo-Yun thought for a long time, but still couldn't think of where this thing was hidden. He didn't know why, but Soo-Yun suddenly felt dizzy. He was very familiar with this feeling. It was the feeling of the central nervous system of the brain being paralyzed. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Soo-Yun realized that he had been tricked. There must be something in the room that couldn't be inhaled. One must know that in the Dragon Brigade, Soo-Yun had received many kinds of drug resistance training. Things that could make him unconscious were really rare. Finally, Soo-Yun's vision turned black, and he directly fell to the ground. There were many kinds of things in the world that could make people unconscious, and a kind of colorless and odorless drug was the most difficult to guard against. Soo-Yun was probably tricked by this kind of thing. Otherwise, if he had noticed the smell earlier, he wouldn't have encountered this. And just after Soo-Yun fell unconscious, Okubo Chiaki walked out of the hot spring. She simply wiped her body, and without even wearing clothes, she directly opened the sliding door partition and walked into the bedroom. Seeing Soo-Yun lying on the ground, Okubo Chiaki didn't panic. She took her time to find clothes in the closet and put them on. Then she took out something that could bind people from a chest of drawers, and personally tied up Soo-Yun. This binding was very solid, and could be considered very professional. It was hard to tell that this Okubo Chiaki really knew a little bit of everything. Chapter 2038. After Okubo Chimi finished dealing with Soo-Yun, she didn't follow the normal steps to call for people, nor did she lock Soo-Yun in a secret prison or something like that. Naturally, there wouldn't be any cruel and severe torture. In this way, Okubo Chimi stared at Soo-Yun for more than 10 minutes. She seemed to want to find something on this man's face, but in the end, Okubo Chimi was disappointed. She always thought that her study of facial features was good, but she never thought that she could not see the slightest treachery on Soo-Yun's face. This made Okubo Chimi have to sigh. Some of Huaxia's words were really concise and reasonable. For example, you may know a person's face but not his heart. Sure enough, people who sell their own country's cultural relics are definitely not good people. Okubo Chimi seemed to be talking to someone and said to herself, I thought there would be an accident. I didn't see any treachery on this person from the beginning. So I didn't arrange for people to do anything to him, but I really didn't expect him to take the initiative to find me. What does Okubo Chimi mean? After she completed the transaction at Black Crow's place, she had the idea of dealing with Soo-Yun. Mom, you often say that you may know a person's face but not his heart. I completely understand it today. Okubo Chimi still said to herself, but I really didn't expect that this sentence would be in line with such a person. This person is really difficult to make you have a bad impression of him, right? At night, Okubo Chimi talking to herself in the air was quite scary. Could it be that there was a ghost in this room? Also, both of them were in the same room, but Okubo Chiaki was completely unaffected, as if nothing had happened. Okubo Chimi fell into deep thought again. What kind of impact will a golden Buddha's head have on Huaxia? What kind of impact will this have on Huaxia's historical research? What kind of historical significance will it have on the history of Buddhism? All of this was obviously the significance of this golden Buddha head. Without this golden Buddha head, Huaxia would not have had the opportunity to study these things. The significance of all this was so great. The fact that Okubo Chimi had collected the golden Buddha head meant that the golden Buddha head had lost its original meaning, leaving only the meaning of appreciation and admiration. And this kind of appreciation could only come from collectors and a few people. It, a world-class treasure, would never be able to enter a museum and show itself to the world. You resellers of cultural relics are really disgracing the face of your ancestors. Okubo Chiami seemed particularly ashamed of Suyun's behavior. Suyun really didn't like to hear these words. As the saying goes, if there's no business, there's no killing. There's the same principle. If there's no business, there's no theft. If no one liked to collect these things, and no one was as selfish as those rich people who wanted to put these antiques into their own pockets, then who would be willing to go to the tombs? It was as if the tombs were playing house and there was no danger. Who knew how many people had died to get this golden Buddha head? Now there was no clue that this golden Buddha head was hidden by Okubo Chimi, and she still said these words. She could really make a dead person come back to life. Fortunately, Suyun's mental strength was deep, and he really didn't wake up from his anger. Since you've done this business and want to secretly take away the things when you return, then don't blame me for being unkind. Okubo Chimi said lightly. When I met you at the hotel, I already knew that something was wrong with you. A real trader is only interested in money, not the scenery of Japan. They're more eager to return to the country and get their share of the money. But you're not like that. Okubo Chimi faced the unconscious Suyun and said to herself, since you stayed, you must be up to no good. The people I arranged for the hotel have been paying attention to you. Yesterday you put down the things and ran out of the hotel. I can understand this as you can't wait to taste Japanese food. But today, you didn't go out at all during the day, and only left the hotel room at night. I know all of this, of course. I feel that it's deliberate. Okubo Chimi said lightly. The corner of my room is lit with mystifying wood. It's colorless and odorless, and no one can resist it. But I've been used to it since I was a child, and I already have antibodies. It seemed that Okubo Chimi's mystifying wood was a necessity. No wonder she didn't need to lock the door at all. Those who dared to enter her room must have ended up like Suyun. I'll clean the room myself. Okubo Chimi said lightly. Everyone knows that my room can't be entered, and it's impossible to walk out after entering. You're very powerful. After entering the room, you still persisted for a while before falling to the ground. After saying that, she didn't know why, but Okubo Chimi suddenly burst out laughing. She seemed to particularly like this kind of talking to herself. Perhaps two smart people have a little quirk of their own. It's the first time I'm naked in front of a man. To be honest, I'm not used to it. Okubo Chimi said lightly, but I don't have the habit of bringing a change of clothes to the hot spring pool. And no one else has ever entered my room. So I'm used to changing clothes in my own room. Suyun couldn't help it. He really couldn't help it. He clearly saw the scene of Okubo Chimi putting on clothes. Yes, this level of mystifying wood was not enough to make Suyun really lose consciousness. It would only make Suyun feel that his brain was not used to it for a short time. Because Suyun especially wanted to find out where Okubo Chimi hid the Buddha's head, he gambled and pretended to be unconscious. He dared to gamble like this because he felt that Okubo Chimi was not the kind of woman who would directly kill people. What Suyun didn't expect was that not only did she not kill him, she didn't even inform her men to do anything to him. Instead, she sat next to him and talked a lot to herself. With this alone, Suyun dared to say that Okubo Chimi was definitely a courageous person, and an absolutely confident person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have chosen to stay in the room with Suyun alone. However, from the way she carefully tied up Suyun, it could also be seen that she was a confident person. She would leave herself a way out. Even if the other party really woke up, she wouldn't put herself in a dangerous situation. A girl in her 20s with such wisdom. Presumably only the children who grew up in a big family could have such wisdom. I especially don't like people like you who treat your country's cultural relics as something that can make you rich. For some reason, Okubo Chimi said such a sentence. If I can represent Huaxia's law, I will definitely punish people like you. Crimes against cultural relics are abominable and unforgivable. F***ck, since you know it, why do you still buy it? Then why do you want to encourage the cultural relics smugglers and sellers? Soo-Yun was so angry that he almost got up and glared. Chapter 2039. Akemi Okubo walked to her bedside and suddenly pressed the switch on the bedside lamp. However, the lamp did not light up. Instead, the wall behind the bedside suddenly opened a secret compartment with a swoosh. The golden Buddha head was in the secret compartment. Only a ghost would think of this kind of mechanism. It looked very ordinary, and Soo-Yun did not care about it at all. But it was this thing that was the switch of the secret compartment. This design was not a big deal, but this idea was really unique. For you, so many people are willing to give up their personality. Okubo Chimi shook her head helplessly and started talking to herself again in front of the Buddha head. Do you know what kind of value you have? Do those cultural relics smugglers who sold you know your value? Oh. Okubo Chimi's mood did not look good at all. She did not have the kind of joy and excitement of getting a treasure. On the contrary, there seemed to be a kind of pressure that she could not bear. Just like this golden Buddha head. It had a weight that she could not bear. No one knows. The people who use you as a tool to make money, the people who sell you, the people who privately sell you, the people who collect you, do not know your value. Okubo Chimi lowered her head. Only those who protect you know your value. This was Soo-Yun's best opportunity. Okubo Chimi's attention was not on Soo-Yun at all. Although Okubo Chimi's binding technique was very professional, it was still nothing to Soo-Yun. When Okubo Chimi sensed danger, Soo-Yun had already freed himself from the rope. He went directly behind her, covered her mouth, and pressed her whole body on the bed. Everything happened so suddenly that Okubo Chimi did not react at all. When she began to realize that she was under Soo-Yun, her eyes were so shocked. To be able to free her in an instant and not be affected by the drug. Who the hell is this guy? The shock made Okubo Chimi forget that she was being pressed down by a man, and her thin clothes could not cover her figure at all. The vague sense of déjà vu was really hard for a man to control. Fortunately, all of Soo-Yun's energy was focused on the golden Buddha head, so he wasn't captivated by the beautiful scenery below. Since you know that those who buy and sell the Buddha head don't know its value, why do you still want to buy it? Soo-Yun lowered his voice and said, Okubo-san, I hope that you can cooperate with me. Don't have any other ideas. My hands are heavy, but I don't want to hurt you. I just want the Buddha's head. Okubo Chimi's breathing was a little rapid. After all, her mouth was tightly covered by Soo-Yun, and she was also pressed under his body. But the panic only stayed in Okubo's body for a very short time. She quickly adjusted her emotions and calmed herself down. She was very clear about the situation she was facing now. She nodded, her expression very calm. It's useless for you to shout and scream. Since I've taken control of you, you're my hostage. I have to leave this place while holding you hostage. Soo-Yun said. You're a smart person, so you know very well what you should do to not be hurt. Okubo Chimi still nodded calmly. Soo-Yun's intuition had always been very accurate. He concluded that Okubo Chimi was a very rational person who knew what she should do and what she shouldn't do. So he slowly released the hand covering Okubo Chimi's pink lips. Okubo-san, I just want to take away the Buddha's head. I hope you can understand. Soo-Yun said lightly. Okubo Chimi's calmness also made Soo-Yun calmer. Okubo Chimi looked at Soo-Yun without saying a word. Finally, Soo-Yun realized that his current state was very unsightly. Riding on a girl's bed would make anyone feel embarrassed. Soo-Yun was startled and understood Okubo Chimi's meaning. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. But I had to do it. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'll take the Buddha's head and leave. If you let me leave quietly, I can guarantee that you won't be hurt. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Okubo Chimi said. If you pick up the Buddha's head, the load-bearing alarm on it will automatically sound the alarm. That voice was much harsher than when I shouted for someone. Soo-Yun was dumbfounded. No wonder she was so calm. It turned out that there was a mechanism behind all this. Okubo Chimi didn't mean to shout for help at all. She could also judge from Soo-yun's behavior that Soo-yun didn't have any rude malice towards her. So she didn't need to use her scream to stimulate Soo-yun to do something radical. A man who didn't do anything obscene while riding on her body, at least in terms of character, could be recognized. Maybe he didn't respect cultural relics, but he was definitely a man who respected women. Soo-yun got up on Okubo Chimi's body. Okubo Chimi's calmness made him have no reason to continue using that kind of action to imprison the girl on the bed. Since there is a mechanism, there must be a way to crack it, Soo-yun said. You must be clear about your mechanism. Of course I'm clear, Okubo Chimi said, but I've already bought this Buddha's head from you. It belongs to me. You got the money, so why do you still want to take it? The most important thing in business is integrity. If you don't even understand this, how can you smuggle cultural relics in the future? Soo-yun didn't know how to explain that he wasn't a cultural relics dealer. I only want the Buddha's head now. You're already under my control. Now I have the final say. Do you know how big a sin it is to sell cultural relics? Okubo Chimi said coldly, I'm really ashamed of you. I know you want to take it back, and the Buddha's head can be sold at the same high price. What you want is not the Buddha's head, but money, right? Soo-yun was startled. Okubo Chimi's reaction was really fast. She could quickly judge what the other party needed most based on their identity. It was a pity that Soo-yun wasn't a cultural relics dealer. If you want money, it's easier to ask me for money directly. Why do you have to take the Buddha's head? The Buddha's head is so heavy. Okubo Chimi talked to Soo-yun about the conditions. How much can you get from doing the Buddha's head business? Is it the same as Wen Xiao? 48 million? Soo-yun was dizzy from Okubo Chimi's words. It seemed like he was greedy for money. I'll give you the money. I can give you the money directly. You'll get the money, and you'll also reduce the risk of continuing to trade the Buddha's head. Isn't that better? Okubo Chimi made her intentions clear. The reason was indeed such, but Soo-yun really didn't want money. He wanted to take the Buddha's head back to the country. I'm sorry, Miss Okubo. I don't want money, I only want the Buddha's head. Soo-yun, don't waste your energy. We should think of a plan that won't hurt you, and I can safely take the Buddha's head away. That's the main point now. Okubo Chimi's eyes showed some confusion. Isn't the Buddha's head a money-making tool in your hands? Why don't you take the money directly? What's the difference? Mr. Soo, you should be a smart person. You should be able to understand such a simple truth. Sorry to disappoint you. I don't want money. Soo-yun said seriously. I'm not a cultural relics dealer. So what I want is the Buddha's head. I want to guarantee the safe return of the Buddha's head to our country. What do you mean? Okubo Chimi was completely at a loss. Chapter 2040. Soo-yun shrugged. Haven't I made it clear enough? The golden Buddha head doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to Huaxia and the government. Only when the government protects it and displays it can it belong to everyone, to all of humanity. Isn't that right? Okubo Chimi suspected that there was something wrong with her ears. Was this person crazy? Stealing a golden Buddha head from a tomb, selling it, then stealing it back and handing it over to the government? God! How could there be such a person in the world? Miss Okubo, I won't hide it from you anymore. Soo-yun knew that Okubo Chimi wouldn't understand the complexity of the situation. I'm not from Jutsai Group, nor am I a reseller of cultural relics. I came to Dongying just to get rid of Black Crow, the cultural relics smuggling hub. That way, Huaxia's cultural relics won't flow into Dongying anymore. You'll understand what I'm saying. This golden Buddha head is just an indispensable item for this mission. Okubo Chimi's jaw dropped. She didn't know that she was involved in such a big matter. But as the buyer, shouldn't the other party arrest her as well? Soo-yun seemed to see Okubo Chimi's confusion. If you're from Huaxia, I'll definitely bring you back to Huaxia for trial. But you're from Dongying, and I don't have that authority. You're free to buy it, but this thing is just a mission item. The mission is over, and the item must be taken back. So, I can only apologize to you. You've already arrested Black Crow? Okubo Chimi was even more surprised now. The mission was completed, and Dongying would no longer have a reliable cultural reseller like Black Crow. What did this mean? This would be a heavy blow to all of Huaxia's cultural relics collectors in Dongying. Suyin didn't deny it. That's right. Black Crow is already being brought back to Huaxia's ship by our people. Although we didn't carry out the arrest operation according to the official rules, you should know that if we go through the official procedures and apply to come to Dongying to arrest people, your current prime minister will definitely not agree to it easily. It seems that Ampire's reputation in Huaxia is really bad. Okubo frowned. She believed what Suyin said because she herself felt that the Ampere family was brainless. Every decision they made was so sick, especially some of the disguised provocations against Huaxia. She really didn't understand why they did that. Of course he stinks in Huaxia. He stinks to the heavens. He's no worse than Inuchi Ichiro. Suyin said, so, if we go through the proper application, he'll definitely force us to come up with some messy rules. Actually, he's just a despicable person who can't stand others doing well. Although Suyun's scolding was quite straightforward, Okubo Chimi didn't seem to be angry at all, as if all this was how it should be. If Dongying can let Miss Okubo be elected, I think the relationship between our two countries will definitely improve, Suyin said. It's impossible for men to be superior to women in Dongying society. Okubo Chimi said, stop dreaming. Also, I don't want to get involved in national politics. It's too tiring to fight and scheme. I just want to know, if both of you stayed in Dongying, who took Black Crow away? Wen Xiao. Suyin said. It seems that he's really a good actor, very suitable for acting. Only then did Okubo Chiaki realize that what she had seen the entire afternoon was a real show. Did all of you graduate from a film academy? Oh, Okubo asked. Actually, I think we're more professional than graduates from film schools. They still have times when the camera lags, but we started acting the moment we arrived in Japan. We only stopped when we caught the Black Crows, Suyin said. Actually, it was quite tough being an actor. The atmosphere between the two of them was abnormally relaxed. Soon, Suyin realized that something was wrong. In this situation, were they really going to be friends? But even if they were friends, the principle of the Buddha's head couldn't be changed. Miss Okubo, I'm actually very happy to be friends with you, but this Buddha's head, I can't give up. Suyin said. If I offend Miss Okubo because of this, I can only apologize. Okubo Chimi shook her head. It's nothing. I don't mind at all. Suyin was very cautious now. The more calm she appeared, the more uncertain he felt. What if she was just stalling for time? I know, you must be very nervous right now. Okubo Chimi said, but if you take the Buddha's head away now, you won't be able to meet up with your friend back at the hotel. Because when you entered my room, I already arranged for people to go to the hotel to arrest him. With that, Okubo Chimi pointed to the smartwatch on her wrist, indicating that her orders were issued from there. Suyin was startled. Yes, their whereabouts had already made Okubo Chimi suspicious, so it was normal for her to make arrangements in advance. Now it was up to Lin Ji's luck. If Lin Gu could escape this disaster, it would be best, but if not, it would be really troublesome. I think if nothing unexpected happens, it will be very difficult for him to escape. Okubo Chimi said, I don't believe that both of you are resistant to the drug. Suyin frowned. If it was this drug, Lin Gu would really be in trouble. This drug was quite powerful. Although Suyin could resist it and not faint, in such an environment, his brain always felt dizzy. It was like a person who could usually drink 8 ounces of alcohol, but this time he drank half a liter. Even if Lin Gu could resist the drug, he was afraid that he would be in this state. How could he resist the other party in this state of dizziness? Suyin had seen Okubo Chimi's bodyguards at noon. Obviously, they were quite professional European and American masters. It was not easy to deal with them at all. Lin Gu in the drug state was probably really doomed. Lin Gu ran back to the hotel in one breath according to Suyun's instructions. After returning to the hotel, he began to simply pack his things. His mood was very chaotic, both excited and uneasy. When Lin Gu noticed that he was a little dizzy, he even thought that it was because he ran too fast and lacked oxygen. Then when Lin Gu found the closed window, his heart thumped. Someone had been in the room. Because he remembered very clearly that when they left, he opened the window because he especially didn't like the feeling of not being able to circulate the air. Lin Gu became nervous. He clearly realized that something had happened, but when he realized this, it seemed that everything was too late. He felt that his arms were soft, and he could hardly lift them. This feeling was quite bad. What was in the room that made him feel this way? Lin Gu was puzzled. It was colorless and tasteless. Was it the drug? If it was that thing, it would be troublesome. Although he had resistance training, this drug was too powerful. Even if he could resist it and not faint, it would be very difficult. It was not good to stay here for a long time. Lin Gu staggered to open the door and was ready to leave. But when he opened the door, there were already 5 burly men wearing simple air filtration masks standing at the door. These 5 people were not ordinary thugs. They were all retired foreign special forces. They were the safest guards around Okubo Chimi. Lin Ji's first reaction was to throw a punch. Although he pushed one of them away, he was followed by another person who kicked him into the room. He felt that his body was very, very soft, and he was completely powerless to resist. Chapter 2041. Just as Su Yin was worried about Lin Ji's situation, Okubo Kiami's phone rang. She didn't avoid Su Yin's presence and calmly picked up the phone. "Miss Okubo, everything you ordered has been solved. We'll take him back right away." A man on the phone said in English. "Thank you for your hard work." Okubo Chiami smiled slightly. It was her subordinate. It seemed that the hotel was going very smoothly. "Mr. Su, it seems that it doesn't make much sense to have me as a hostage in your hands. Your people have been dealt with by my people at the hotel, and they're on their way back." Su Yin believed that Lin Gu was definitely not easy to deal with. The other party must have used this kind of dishonorable means. Otherwise, it would be impossible to take him down so easily. "Miss Okubo, you're really a bit unkind." "Su Yin, I've always regarded you as a friend, but I didn't expect you to be so scheming." Okubo Chiami pursed her lips and said, "I don't deny that I'm scheming at all. If I wasn't scheming, I wouldn't have been able to gain a foothold in this family. In fact, I should say this. Mr. Su, you surprised me more." After a pause, Okubo Chiami was afraid that Su Yin didn't understand, and explained, "Your change in identity really surprised me. I guessed the beginning, but I couldn't guess the result at all." Su Yin's brain turned quickly. He hoped that he could think of a way to get the best of both worlds. At first, he had no clue at all. It seems that he can only wrong Okubo Chimi. Although this girl is a good girl, except that she is a bit scheming, all her qualities are very good. Su Yin didn't want to hurt her, but now Su Yin had no other way. "Miss Okubo, I believe that in the eyes of your family, your life must be much more important than my brother's life." "Su Yin, so even if you catch my brother, the bargaining chip is not enough. It's not the same as yours." Okubo shook her head with a smile. "Mr. Su, you're wrong. Although in the eyes of my family, my life is more important, but in your eyes? I'm afraid your brother is more important than me. Therefore, everyone's chips are the same. Mine isn't high at all." F***ck. Su Yin really couldn't outtalk this little girl. Whether it's high or low, let your clansmen decide for themselves. Su Yin suddenly stood up. He had lost his patience and was ready to touch the Buddha's head. "Don't you want to know why I'm doing this?" Chimi Okubo suddenly said. She put away all her smiles and became calm and serious again. Su Yin was slightly startled. "Didn't you buy the Buddha head privately because you like it? You're just being willful because you're rich. Is there any other reason?" "Of course there's a reason," Okubo said. "Otherwise, why would I spend so much money to buy it?" Su Yin was slightly startled and looked at Okubo with some surprise. "What do you mean?" "I want to tell you that I'm not the one who wants to buy or sell it, and I'm not the one who wants to keep it," Okubo Chimi said. "In fact, I'm the same as you, I want to protect it." Hearing this, Su Yin was completely confused. Protect it? I never thought of taking this Buddha's head for myself. Because it shouldn't belong to anyone. It should belong to all mankind. It should belong to Huaxia. Okubo said lightly, Do you want to hear my story? Facing Okubo Chimi's slightly pleading eyes, how could Su Yin have the heart to refuse? He didn't know what story Okubo Chimi wanted to tell him, but he believed that since Okubo Chimi said so, it must be a story worth listening to. Well, I don't know where to start. Well, let's start. Okubo saw Su Yin acquiesce, so she began. When you first saw me, were you surprised by my Chinese? Su Yin nodded and was indeed surprised. Your Chinese is very good, really no different from Huaxia. If Black Crow didn't call you Miss Okubo, I would definitely think you were a Huaxia. Actually, compared to Dongying, I should say that I'm a Huaxia. When Okubo said this, Su Yin was really confused. What did this mean? My grandfather was Dongying, and my grandmother was Huaxia. So when it was my father's time, half of his blood was Huaxia. Okubo smiled slightly. What surprised everyone was that my father fell in love with my mother, and my mother was Huaxia. So, I'm very proud that I have 5% of my blood, Huaxia. Don't you think so? 2.5 out of 4? This account was very clear. Her mother and grandmother were both Huaxia, and her father was 0.5 Huaxia. That's right too. 5%. Su Yin nodded. Don't they say that Dongying girls are very gentle? Why did your family run to Huaxia to find a wife? My grandfather once wanted to be a reporter. He participated in an interview in Huaxia after World War II. At that time, Dongying had already announced their surrender. Okubo said, my grandfather was 18 years old. He went to Huaxia to do an interview. They fell in love at first sight. Just because of a look, my grandfather fell in love with my grandmother. Su Yin nodded. This story was rich enough. But at that time, the family was very opposed. They opposed my grandfather liking my grandmother, and they also opposed my grandfather becoming a reporter. My great-grandfather thought that reporters had no future, and he had to come back to work for the family. Okubo said, my grandfather gave up his lifelong dream and lost the opportunity to become an excellent reporter. He returned to the family to work for the family, but his condition was that my great-grandfather had to accept my grandmother. Then my grandmother joined our family. Soon my father was born. Okubo continued. But because my grandmother was Huaxia, my grandfather's brothers and uncles were very exclusive of my father. They thought that the blood flowing in his body was not pure Okubo family blood. Because of this, my father once wanted to commit suicide. Looking down on Huaxia, Su Yin said, where are your uncles? I want to teach them a lesson now, and let them know how to behave. Okubo smiled faintly. Actually, this is not important at all. It doesn't matter, right? Everything is still very good now. My father survived the most difficult days of his life. When he was in university, he knew that once he graduated, he would have to face the conflict of interests in his family. He was in pain, and many times, he wanted to use death to escape from reality. It was at that time that my mother, who was an international student in China, appeared by his side. It was also because of one look that he fell in love with her at first sight, and she helped him through the most difficult period of his life. The people in your family all have a characteristic. It is easy to fall in love with Huaxia people at first sight. Su Yin said this without thinking at all. It was definitely a joke. You must not look at Huaxia people casually. You may fall in love at first sight. However, after saying this, Su Yin's eyes happened to meet Okubo's eyes. At that time, Okubo's face flushed. Su Yin's face was even more embarrassed. This was too much of a coincidence. What he said happened. In fact, falling in love with Huaxia people is also very good. Huaxia men are very responsible, and Huaxia men's chauvinism is not as serious as Japanese men's. At least they respect women. Su Yin tried to use a joke to dissolve the embarrassment. In many Huaxia families, the daughter-in-law is in charge of the finances. Chapter 2042. In fact, isn't love like this? Okubo Chimi said lightly. I really envy my grandparents, my father and mother. Their love is so pure, just because of a look. Isn't such love the best? Su Yin was startled. This girl's emotions were quite deep, but thinking about it carefully, Such a mentally strong girl with such a prominent family. I'm afraid that ordinary people really don't dare to fall in love with her. And those who dare to fall in love with her must be the children of the same prominent family. And their love is probably more for the family's benefit. Although Okubo-chimi was rich and beautiful and gentle and lovely, she couldn't get her own true love. Compared to her father, mother, and grandparents, she was indeed unfortunate. Although she had so much, she couldn't have the simplest thing in her heart. When the material conditions of the whole society began to improve, but it hadn't risen to a certain level, it was particularly easy for love and marriage to appear on the premise of material conditions. Now in the whole society, especially in the 1980s, how many people's love and marriage weren't that simple and pure? When material conditions were mixed into it, any love would become unpleasant. Or it could be said that it was just a fake love on the surface. What was truly pure was not love, but kinship and responsibility. It was a form of passing down the family, or even a way to make parents feel at ease. Love that was integrated with these things was naturally not pure, so it became less sacred and beautiful. Sorry, I seem to have digressed a bit. Okubo-chimi smiled slightly. In fact, I just want to say that I'm half Hwaseong. So when I see Hwaseong cultural relics flowing out, I really feel heartache. I don't want such a valuable thing to be collected by others, so I bought it back at all costs. Soo-yin understood a lot about Okubo-chimi. He nodded. Yes, any Hwaseong person would feel heartache. My father was the most outstanding in his generation, and my grandfather valued him. And because my mother was Hwaseong, my grandfather favored him even more. Okubo-chimi said, before my grandfather died, he handed everything over to my father to take care of. That's why the Okubo family has regained its glory today. Speaking of this, Okubo-chimi's eyes seemed a little sluggish. After a short pause, Okubo-chimi continued. Isn't life like this? It was full of ups and downs, full of joy, excitement, and sorrow. My father's strong rise threatened the interests of others. Suddenly one day my mother was killed. Soo-yin couldn't help but look up at Okubo-chimi. He was very surprised. This kind of thing must be a great blow to a girl. Just 2 years ago. Okubo-chimi continued. And it must have been done by one of the uncles in the family. They did all this to attack my father. My condolences. Soo-yin didn't know what he should say, but in this situation, it wouldn't be nice if he didn't say anything. Thank you. Okubo-chimi said. Now I'm not sad, because the hatred has been avenged. My father has avenged my mother. Soo-yin made a no sound. Perhaps this was better. Who is it? So bad. In the end, no one will ever know who did it in the end. Okubo-chimi said. But the whole thing must have been discussed by all of them. Fortunately, my father found a reason to take them to a place to see a project. Everyone got in the car because none of them would have thought that my father would plant a bomb in his car. Hiss. Soo-yin took a deep breath. This guy is really too ruthless, isn't he? In order to avenge his wife, he didn't hesitate to sacrifice his own life and kill all his brothers. Damn, such madness. It's really not something an ordinary person can do. Everyone thought it was a car accident. Okubo-chimi's eyes were dull. Only I knew. Before my father made this decision, he left me a letter. Everything was clear. Only I knew, losing one's father and mother one after another. How painful this feeling was. It was really not something that could be comforted by a word of condolences. At that time, I began to understand that if I didn't want to be bullied, I had to become strong. Okubo-chimi said. Only when you are strong, no one dares to point fingers at you, even the people in the family. Your position must be earned by yourself. The Okubo family's change was really big. All of a sudden, the backbone of the previous generation were all dead. This was definitely a period of decline for the family, but this situation didn't happen? Could it be that Okubo-chimi alone turned the tide? For my position in the family, I have to maintain all the family relationships. Those things that didn't belong to my father before, I also have to do. Because my cousins seem to prefer to drive luxury cars, go to bars and find women. They didn't maintain the relationship that originally belonged to their father at all. Okubo-chimi said. Soo-yin understood. No wonder Okubo Chimi could establish a foothold in the Okubo family, and even become a pillar. It was because she had supported the Okubo family during its most difficult time in the past 2 years. He finally understood why this woman looked so shrewd. Anyone would be able to completely change themselves in such a short period of time. Okubo Chimi's ability made her the leader of the family. Although those brothers and sisters were not convinced, in the face of strength, no one could say anything. Everyone knew very well that in the outside world, many partners and businessmen only recognized Okubo Chimi. If it weren't for Okubo Chimi, their family might not have been able to hold on, but they certainly wouldn't have their current social status, and their family wouldn't have such strong assets now. They would probably have been squandered by those prodigal guys. You are really amazing, I admire you, Su-yin said. Even if it were a boy, it would be really difficult to persist. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly. Yes, so I want to earn more money. I want to have a higher social status. I want everyone to look up to me. Only then can I be satisfied. But after saying so much, does this have anything to do with the Buddha's head? Su-yin couldn't help but say, although your story is wonderful and I like to listen to it, I'm afraid I need to hear more about the Buddha's head now. Okubo Chimi smiled embarrassedly. Maybe I didn't express the theme clearly. I want to say that I am also half a Huaxia person. I have the obligation to protect Huaxia's cultural relics, and I have this ability now, so I bought it. I don't want it to fall into the hands of others. If you can prove your identity, I will let you take the Buddha's head away without any conditions. Su-yun's brain exploded. Is this true? Am I dreaming? Free? Su-yun shook his head vigorously. Could it be that the hallucination powder had made him dizzy and he was starting to daydream? How could this be true? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Su-yun really couldn't believe all this for a long time. What I said is true. Do I need to lie to you? Okubo Chimi said. If I wanted to deal with you, I would have called for help. Why would I tell you a story? Chapter 2043. Miss Okubo, this isn't the time to joke. Su-yun couldn't believe that this was the truth. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Okubo Chimi said lightly. The Buddha's head is in my room and not in the showroom because I want to find an opportunity to return it to the relevant departments in Huaxia. Don't worry, my men won't hurt your brother. I won't let anyone do anything to hurt you. Su-yun breathed a sigh of relief. This was what it meant to be good people were rewarded. Okubo Chimi was now a shining goddess in Su-yun's eyes. But you also have to prove that you didn't lie to me. Okubo Chimi suddenly changed the topic. Prove that you really did retrieve the Buddha's head for the country. This time, Su-yun was really stumped. How was he going to prove his identity? Issue a letter of recommendation? Stamp it? Ask Wan Guangxiao to send it to him? But whether or not she would believe these things was a problem. And these things were too easy to fake. Okubo-san, this request of yours seems rather difficult to fulfill. I don't know how to prove it, but if I asked my country to send a letter of proof to you, would you believe me? Su-yun asked tentatively. Okubo Chimi shook her head. Of course not. When I was in college, I went to a university in Huaxia as an exchange student for 2 months. I saw with my own eyes a student who drove a BMW sports car to and from school during college submit a certificate to the teacher as an extremely poor student. The kind that was approved by the relevant departments with a stamp. Su-yun blushed a little when he heard this. There was no other way. These were all done by some officials who stirred up shit. There was no real matter. At that time I was shocked. Was Huaxia's economy so developed? Because my mother was an international student, she said that the conditions of my grandfather's family were already good in Huaxia. He drove an Audi. Okubo Chimi said, so I was very sure that he couldn't be an extremely poor student. Later, I found out that the student's father was a village branch secretary. His family was very rich. I've seen students who are really poor. When they go out to buy things, they can't even bear to take public transport back and forth for more than 10 miles. They have to walk. Su-yun nodded. So, that's why I can't believe that you're a needy student, even if you ask someone to give you a certificate. What if you're the son of a village party secretary? It's not difficult to get a certificate. Okubo Chiami smiled slightly. In fact, from her relaxed conversation with Su-yun, it could be seen that she trusted Su-yun. Moreover, Su-yun really didn't need to prove anything. His behavior had already proved that he was definitely not a bad person. If he was a cultural relic dealer who could bring in huge profits by getting the Buddha's head, would he still be here wasting his breath with Okubo Chiami? He had already thought of a way to knock her out and take the Buddha's head away. Therefore, judging from all the signs, Su-yun was definitely not a bad person, nor was he a relic dealer. Moreover, when Okubo Chiami asked him to give him money, leave the Buddha's head behind, and let him go, he refused without any hesitation. Su-yun's reaction was also true. He only wanted the Buddha's head, definitely not money. In fact, many signs had already shown that Su-yun's words were true, and his identity was also true. Okubo Chiami put forward this condition just to see Su-yun's reaction, so that she could make a clearer judgment. How about this? You put forward a condition that I can prove, and then I'll fulfill your conditions. How about that? Su-yun said. Otherwise, I really don't know how to prove it. I don't know where to start. Okubo Chiami nodded. That's true. If I put forward a condition, then fine. I've been to the Huaxia Yanjing Museum. I've seen the curator of the museum, and remember what he looks like. How about this? Let your leader contact the curator of the museum, and then let the curator make a video call. Su-yun nodded. This is also a good idea. If you don't have this kind of power, you definitely can't instruct the curator to make a video call to us. Okay. I'll do as you say. When Su-yun agreed happily, Okubo Chiami immediately said, No need. Ah. Su-yun frowned. He thought that Okubo Chiami was different from other rich girls, but it turned out that she was the same. She was very willful and did whatever she wanted. Finally, there was a way, but she didn't want to do it. Then what should I do? Su-yun said helplessly. Nothing much. I believe you. Okubo Chiami said. I studied psychology in college, and I usually don't misjudge people. But I misjudged you once. This time, I believe I won't misjudge you again. Su-yun stared. Aren't you too bold? You don't even want the proof? You believe me just based on your intuition? Hey, what if I'm really a cultural relic dealer? What if I was just acting? Then wouldn't you just give away such a valuable thing? Don't you want to protect the Buddha's head? It's irresponsible to protect it like this. Okubo Chiami didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just now, she wanted Su-yun to prove himself, but now it was Su-yun who had to prove himself. Mr. Su, do you think you would say what you just said if you were a cultural relic dealer? Okubo Chiami said. Some of the things that people reveal most naturally can't be faked. You weren't acting just now. I can see it. Really, at this time, Su-yun really admired Okubo Chiami. He gave her a thumbs up. Miss Okubo, you are one of the wisest girls I have ever met. I'm very happy that we can really be friends this time. Okubo Chiami smiled slightly. My friends never call me Miss Okubo, and I prefer my friends call me Chiami. Su-yun was taken aback. That's right. I also think that Chienmei sounds better. Chiami, you can just call me Su-yun. Su-yun-kun, Okubo Chiami said. Don't, just call me Su-yun. Su-yun. That will make me feel like a Japanese. To put it bluntly, I'm a person who has a lot of plots in some things, so although I don't hate Japanese, I definitely don't like them. Okubo Chiami bowed apologetically and said, I'm sorry, I can understand. Many Huaxia people have this kind of complex, I can understand. Long live understanding. Su-yun. But I really appreciate you honestly. Okubo Chiami smiled slightly. Because I'm also a Huaxia person, so you can subjectively accept me in your heart. This is also psychology. Su-yun smiled embarrassedly. He was being taken care of here, but he still had to show that he didn't like Japanese. In any case, Okubo Chiami's father and grandfather were Japanese. Although she had Huaxia blood in her body, it still didn't change the fact that she was Japanese. Thank you for your generosity, Su-yun. I'm sorry for what I said just now. It's okay. As long as you're real, it's fine. Okubo Chiami said. I like to be with real people, and I hope that my friends are real to me, not disguised with masks. Soo-Yun nodded seriously. I won't disrespect you anymore. I promise that everything about me is real. Why are you so serious? It's like you're making an oath. I feel embarrassed. Okubo Chiami couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. However, at this moment, there was the sound of some clogs outside. Soon, there was an inquiry outside Okubo Chiami's room. Miss Okubo, you haven't slept yet, right? Is everything okay? Okubo Chiami replied faintly. It's all good. What's the matter? Our dogs are all unconscious. It's good that you're okay. I was worried that someone had come in. The person outside the door continued. Okubo Chiami stared at Soo-Yun with wide eyes. Soo-Yun confessed and nodded, indicating that he did it. Okubo Chiami breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that there was no one else. Chapter 2044. What's there to worry about outsiders coming in? Obviously, outsiders have already come in. The voice that suddenly came from outside the door was obviously full of irritation and impatience. Chiaki, we've already heard the voices of other people in your room. The person who spoke was one of Chiaki Okubo's cousins, Obito Okubo. His temper should be the worst among the siblings. Normally, Chiaki Okubo's cousins rarely came back to sleep here. Although they all had their own rooms, they preferred to be free outside. God knows why Obito Okubo came back today, and even encountered this matter and heard Soo-Yun's voice. It's my friend. Brother, can't I have friends? Chiaki Okubo said lightly. You all can leave. I don't want my conversation with my friends to be disturbed. Obito Okubo glared. Chiaki, do you know what kind of behavior you are doing? Your current identity represents our Okubo family. In the middle of the night, what kind of friend do you have to talk with in your room? I think it's a wild man. Your behavior is really a disgrace to our Okubo family. Chiaki Okubo has long been accustomed to these brothers grabbing a little bit of dirt on her and making a big fuss. Every day outside, they indulged in wine, singing and dancing, and there were even some people who took those kinds of large-scale photos. But they never thought that their behavior was inappropriate. Even if Chiaki Okubo met a college classmate by the way, as long as the other party was a man, if she was caught, she would be ostracized, saying that her behavior was indecent and damaged the reputation of the Okubo family. But today Soo-Yun, such a big living person, was caught in her room. How could Obito Okubo easily let him go? Of course not. Brother, please speak with some respect. Don't make my friend look so bad. Chiaki Okubo suddenly got up. She strode forward and directly opened the door. She knew that if she didn't open the door, her brother's mouth would spit out some indecent things. Now, she and Soo-Yun appeared in front of everyone neatly dressed, which was nothing at all. Sentinel Okubo couldn't speak such nonsense. However, the sharp-eyed Okubo guard still saw the rope that Okubo Chimi had used to bind Soo-Yun. He frowned. Chimi, if you have any special hobbies, I won't ask. But shouldn't you clean up the things you've used? Don't you feel embarrassed being seen by so many people? Okubo, of course, understood what her brother meant. Brother, this thing is not the kind of sex toy you use to deal with women. Don't talk nonsense. All right, if it's not, then it's not. But you, Miss Okubo, have a man in your room. How do you explain this? The Okubo guard sneered. Soo-Yun was too embarrassed to speak. Because he had caused trouble in her family, he had brought so much trouble to Okubo Chimi. Of course, he would feel embarrassed. Okubo Chiami didn't avoid the topic of her brother. Has no woman ever entered your room? I'm a man. Of course, I can find a woman. The Okubo guard's male chauvinism was very serious. Then I'll tell you. I'm a woman. I can also find a man. I also have the right to fall in love. I have the right to find my own husband. This is something you can't control. Okubo Chimi said. Do I need to ask for your permission to let my beloved man into my room? As soon as this remark came out, everyone was stunned. Everyone knew that they didn't see Okubo Chimi bring a man back. The man in her room must have used some means to confuse a few dogs and sneak in. Was it really for love? The Okubo guard had nothing to say about this. After all, Everyone was an adult. At this time, the Okubo guard suddenly saw the golden Buddha head in the secret compartment behind Okubo Chimi's bed. His attention shifted to the golden Buddha head. Chimi, when did you trade the Buddha head back? Why didn't I know? This is my own business. Why should I let you know? Okubo Chimi's patience had disappeared little by little. Her brother was really hateful to the max. I heard that this thing costs more than 6 billion yen. With so much money, it must be our family's money, the Okubo guard said. The things bought with the family's money belong to the family. Of course, I have the right to know. This is not your own business, Okubo Chimi said coldly. Family's money? Have you ever earned a penny for the family? You're the president of the family's company. You take the family's company's money and you don't even go to work. You only know how to go to the gym every day. Fitness, forever fitness. What qualifications do you have to mention the family's money to me? Chimi, I'm your brother. You're going too far by talking to me like this. Although the Okubo guard knew that he was in the wrong, because he was a man should have a man's face. Even if Okubo Chimi was the pillar of their family, he couldn't let her yell at him in front of so many people. If he couldn't hold on to this face, then how could he continue to mingle in this family in the future? If you want to get the respect of others, you'd better learn to respect others first, Okubo Chimi said. This Buddha's head is my personal item. No one can touch it. The Okubo guard gritted his teeth and looked at the golden Buddha's head. He didn't believe that Okubo Chimi would really fall out with him because of a Buddha's head. He must fight back for this man's face. Today, I'm really going to take this Buddha's head away, the Okubo guard said fiercely. Chimi, do you think you can stop me? Okubo Chimi sneered. Brother, you're overestimating yourself. The Okubo guard was desperate for face. He snorted and rushed into the room. Suyin finally couldn't sit still. He couldn't let this guy take the Buddha's head away. He directly stopped in front of him. The Okubo guard stared at Suyin fiercely. Boy, I'm telling you. This is our family's business. You'd better not interfere. Otherwise, I'll make you die a horrible death. You can go out and ask about the fate of those who offend the Okubo guard. Suyin really wanted to kick him out, but after all, he had to give Okubo Chimi face. He looked at Okubo Chimi. Okubo Chimi shook her head in embarrassment, but she was confident that the Okubo guard couldn't take it away. He can't take it away. Only then did Suyin step aside. Indeed, he couldn't take it away. He could only rely on the strength of his wrists to take it out from the hidden compartment. However, this was not something an ordinary person could do. It required a considerable amount of wrist strength. Since the Okubo guard spent every day in the gym, then let him try the effect of his fitness. The Okubo guard wasn't educated. He didn't consider how heavy such a solid golden Buddha's head would be. He didn't even think about it before he directly took it. Chapter 2045. Woo. Oh. Woo. 5 minutes later, the Ojiku guard held the Buddha's head with both hands, but the Buddha's head only moved a few centimeters. Because the design of the hidden compartment was too similar to the size of the Buddha's head, the Ojiku guard could only reach in with both hands. Before he used the strength of his fingers and wrists. The Buddha's head was not easy to grab, and he didn't know where the strength he used went. With the Ojiku guard's physique, if the Buddha's head was placed on the ground, he could really carry it away. But if it was placed here, he really didn't have the ability to pull it out with the strength of his fingers and wrists. Finally, the Ojiku guard gave up. He sweated profusely and said, Chiaki, if you put it here, who can take it out? If you can put it in, you can take it out. Chiaki, Okubo said. You can't do it, but it doesn't mean that others can't. You can't take it out, but there must be someone who can. Faced with such a provocation, the Ojiku guard was unwilling. Impossible. I'll tell you, Chiaki, if anyone here can take it out, I'll give it to him directly. What right do you have to give it to me? Chiaki, Okubo said coldly. Suyin suddenly said, just treat it as giving him the right to do so. Chiaki Okubo was startled. She immediately realized what Suyin wanted to do. If I give him the right, will he dare to use it? Of course I dare. The Ojika guard said. Whoever takes it out will take the Buddha's head. I'll give it to him. I'll take it. Suyin smiled, his face full of joy. This was really embarrassing. Chiaki Okubo suddenly said to her brother, I can give you the right to give it away, but you know the value of this Buddha's head. If someone takes it, then your salary will be deducted from me. The Ojika guard had absolute confidence that no one present could take it out. However, just as Obito Okubo patted his chest and agreed, okay, as long as someone has the ability to take away the Buddha's head, I won't take a single cent from the company in the future. I'll work for free. As soon as he finished speaking, Suyin held the Buddha's head in his arms. Big brother, you can slowly return the money for the Buddha's head in the future. The Okubo guard's jaw almost dropped to the ground. It had only been 3 to 5 seconds. How did this guy manage to grab such a heavy Buddha head? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Obi Okubo didn't believe it. He pointed at Chime Okubo and said, You must have discussed it beforehand. There must be a mechanism. Impossible. This is impossible. While they were talking, the Daijia guards didn't stay idle either. They suddenly pounced forward to snatch the Buddha's head. Because Obito Okubo's action was too big, he pushed Okubo Chimi away, so Suyun's attention was distracted by Chimi. When Obito Okubo directly made his move, Suyun's hand slipped, and the Buddha's head was really snatched away by Obito Okubo. But because Obito Okubo was too excited, he wasn't prepared to receive such a heavy thing. When Suyun noticed this, he deliberately let go of his hand, and Obito Okubo didn't hold the Buddha's head at all. The Buddha's head fell down with a bang, smashing right on Obito Okubo's foot. Obito Okubo screamed, and his whole body fainted from the pain. Think about it, if a 20-gene shot put fell from a height of 1 meter and hit the foot, it would break the foot. This was a 150-gene Buddha's head. This weight would definitely crush it, and it would definitely not be good. Obito Okubo's foot was almost smashed into 2-dimensional pieces. Seeing that something had happened, everyone was dumbfounded. Okubo Chimi's reaction was still very fast. She quickly ordered someone to take Obito Okubo to the hospital. No matter how much she hated her brother, he was still related to her by blood. Although they were only related by blood by a great-grandfather, he was still a member of the family. When everything was arranged, Okubo Chimi's forehead oozed with a trace of sweat. I'm sorry to trouble your family. Suyin admitted that if he didn't do it deliberately, he wouldn't have been able to snatch the Buddha's head, and he wouldn't have smashed his foot. Okubo Chimi shook her head. This is all his own fault. It has nothing to do with others. Even so, he is your brother after all. Suyin, I feel a little guilty in my heart. Okubo Chimi smiled. If I say that I actually hate this brother, will you feel better in your heart? Maybe. Suyin. Isn't that good? Because I really hate my brother. Okubo Chimi said. He hurt his foot, so it's good to let him stay in the hospital for a while. It will cause a lot less trouble for the family, and it will also save me a lot of worry. Suyin knew that Okubo Chimi was comforting him. Because of this matter, he was afraid that her other siblings would find a weakness to attack her. You are such a big family, and you are only cousins by great-grandfather. Why don't you split up? Suyin. If you split up, then you won't have so much trouble. Big families have their own difficulties. Chiami Okubo faintly said. There are many things we have to consider for the sake of the family's reputation. If we split up, it would mean the end of the Okubo family. I don't want the family to end in our generation. No generation would want that. This is something we have to consider in our family life. Suyin nodded. He couldn't understand this because he never had the concept of family. After he was born, he was alone. Let alone a family, he didn't even have a home. In fact, it's really troublesome. Okubo Chimi said. But it's also very good. Life will be much more fulfilling. With so many brothers and sisters eyeing me covetously, I will never have a lazy mentality. It's a good incentive for me, right? Yes, it is indeed a good incentive. Suyin nodded. To be honest, he was a little envious of this kind of family-style life. Although there was definitely scheming, it was also a kind of fun. It was better than being alone and having nothing. When the Okubo guards were sent away, Okubo Chimi arranged a few people to invite Linga back. A black Mazda business car drove through the gate. Soon Linga was brought in front of Okubo Chimi. Lin Ji's head was dizzy. He had been tossing and turning along the way, so he was dealt with by these people. Damn it, he couldn't use any strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so unlucky. Just when Linga was about to scold Okubo Chimi, a familiar figure appeared behind Okubo Chimi. Suyin? This caused Linga to become much more clear-headed. What the hell happened? He didn't know what was going on. Hurry up and untie him. It's all a misunderstanding. Okubo Chimi ordered her subordinates to quickly untie Linga. Linga was absolutely tied up. The three people took a minute to untie him. After releasing him, Linga really wanted to give them a few punches. Okubo Chimi bowed very sincerely and said, "I'm sorry to let you suffer. This is all my fault. Please forgive me." "Brother, what the hell is going on?" Linga was completely stunned. He felt like he was given a sweet date after being slapped. He couldn't be anxious or angry. He was now confused because when Okubo Chimi bowed, the people who hit him just now also bowed and apologized. Chapter 2046. Suyin shrugged his shoulders. "What do you think?" "I think I'm still dizzy from the drug. This is all an illusion." Linga was telling the truth. "Even if you beat me to death, I won't believe what's happening now. You and Miss Okubo, the two of you? What's going on?" "Brother, I'll just pretend that I'm still unconscious. If I say something wrong, please forgive me." "You'd better not say it," Suyin said. "I'm afraid you won't be able to say anything decent." Linga scratched his head. "But if I don't say it, 100 claws will scratch my heart." As he spoke, Linga cast his gaze on Okubo Chimi. Seeing that she was dressed so casually, Linga felt that his guess was even more reliable. "My brother took you down so quickly?" F***ck off. Suyin glared. Okubo Chimi pursed her lips and smiled. She really didn't see that Linga was so cute before. She quoted Suyun's words. "What do you think?" "Aya." Linga slapped his thigh. When he heard Okubo Chimi's words, he must have guessed correctly. Otherwise, the girl would have slapped him long ago. "My brother is awesome, he's so charming." Linga sighed. "If I'd known that you were going to use the handsome man trap, I wouldn't have had to go back and take this beating." "Okubo-san, you don't know how ruthless your people are. My body still hurts." Suyin really wanted to kick Linga out. "You see that Miss Okubo has a good temper, so you want a yard after taking an inch, right? Believe it or not, I'll kick." "Suyin, didn't I say that I don't like you calling me that?" Okubo Chimi interrupted Suyin. Suyin was stunned by Okubo Chimi's words. It seemed that there was still a cultural difference. Otherwise, Okubo Chimi would never say this. Wouldn't this make Linga, that little brat, misunderstand even more? "Call me Qianmei." Okubo Chimi was completely unaware of what Suyin was thinking and reminded him again. "I like it when you call me Chimi." Linga exclaimed. "It's already 1,000 beauties. Did I come at the wrong time? Bro, did I disturb you?" How about I go back first?" "You just stop making a fuss." Suyin glared. They had been communicating in Chinese, so even if there were people around them, they wouldn't be able to understand what they were saying. Even so, Suyin still felt embarrassed with so many people around. He didn't mind, but he didn't want to ruin the girl's reputation. That would be his fault. "Okay, you all go down. There's nothing for you to do here." Okubo Chimi saw Suyun's embarrassment and immediately ordered all her men to leave. Then, she invited Suyin and Linga to her room to talk. Suyin refused. "Chimi, it's getting late. We won't disturb your rest. If there's nothing else, then let's go back to the hotel." After that, Suyun's gaze fell on the golden Buddha head. The Buddha head was his top priority now. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly and gave Suyin a reassurance. "Don't worry, I won't go back on what I promised you. You can take the Buddha head away at any time. But it's so late now. It might be safer for you to stay with me if you take the Buddha head back to the hotel. My house is very big. If you don't have any objections, I'll immediately arrange a room for you. You can stay here today. Su-yun felt that it was troublesome. Okubo Chimi was particularly embarrassed and wanted to politely refuse her kindness. But Lin-ge didn't think so. Of course, he didn't want to run back and forth. His head was still groggy. He really wanted to lie down on a bed and sleep right now. Of course, I don't have any objections. Okubo-san, you're really too kind. I really feel lucky for my brother. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Su-yun bared his teeth. Brother, if you're like this, you're not giving face. Okubo-san invited you so warmly. If you still leave, that's too. TSK, sigh. I won't say anything. I'll listen to you. Lin-ge said. Su-yun glared at Lin-ge. Don't use idioms. Who invited you warmly? Don't flatter yourself. Oh, I understand. Okubo-san, so you were just being polite. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I'm too honest. Please don't take it to heart. Lin-ge said. Okubo Chimi looked at Su-yun with some anger. Are you blaming me for not being warm enough? But I really sincerely invited you to stay. I'm not being hypocritical. Su-yun, you misunderstood me. Su-yun was completely speechless. Lin-ge, this little brat, really knew how to use cultural differences to lead people astray. Although Okubo Chimi's Chinese was very good and she understood Huaxia culture, she didn't live in Huaxia after all. There were some words she didn't understand. Lin-ge, this brat, deliberately said that. Chimi, I really didn't mean that. Don't listen to this brat's nonsense. Su-yun. I know you're sincere. I didn't misunderstand you. I definitely didn't mean that you weren't warm. You're already very warm. I really feel embarrassed. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly and said, Do you think there's still a need to be embarrassed between us? Su-yun was really speechless by Okubo Chimi's words. Lin-ge's eyes widened. What happened in such a short time? There's no need to be embarrassed between the two of them? Isn't that already? Then I'll really trouble you, Su-yun said. I'll have someone prepare 2 guest rooms for you right away. Okubo Chimi said. No, 1 is enough. Su-yun. I've observed that the rooms in your house are very big. 2 rooms would be a waste. 1 is enough, really enough. Okubo Chimi respected Su-yun's choice. Perhaps in an unfamiliar environment, the 2 of them could better adapt to it. The family's staff quickly prepared a guest room for them. Su-yun and Lin-ge also left early. Su-yun didn't want to disturb her rest. If it weren't for what they did today, she might have already gone to bed. The guest room was quite cozy, making people feel warm just by looking at it. Brother, how far has your relationship gone? After Lin-ge entered the room, the first thing he did was to satisfy his curiosity. Have you already met each other honestly? Why is Okubo-san so dead set on you? She just returned the Buddha's head to us like this? Brother, you're really something. I didn't know you were so good. What do you think is in your head? Su-yun shook his head helplessly. Lin-ge pursed his lips and said, No one told me the situation clearly. Of course, I can only guess that it's because your skills in that area are better. And then you captivated her. Otherwise, what else can I think? Do you believe that I'll tear your mouth open right now? Su-yun glared at Lin-ge. Lin-ge stuck out his tongue. I do. Then shut up. Su-yun. Okubo Chimi isn't what we think at all. She didn't buy the Buddha's head for personal use. She just thinks that such cultural relics should be protected. It would be a huge loss to Huaxia if someone bought it. That's why she bought it first, and then found a way to return it to Huaxia's relevant departments. Lin-ge was dumbfounded. Why is she so nice to Huaxia's government? Is she Japanese or not? Her grandmother is Huaxia, and her mother is also Huaxia. Su-yun, do you think she's Japanese or Huaxia? Half and half. The proportion of Huaxia should be more. After all, her father is a mix of Huaxia and Japanese. Lin-ge said. In that case, we're really lucky. We're really lucky. We're really burning incense. Su-yun, when we go back, I'll apply to the higher-ups and return the money. We'll just treat it as borrowing her help. If we still take her money, then it's too much. Lin-ge nodded. That was true. Anyway, the money was really given by her. It was all from the loot of Jutsai group. Chapter 2047. Brother, do you think Okubo Kiami's grandfather and father both married Hwasia? Does she also want to marry a Hwasia? Linga said. I absolutely believe that Okubo Chiami has taken a fancy to you. Brother, really, she definitely wants you to stay and be her son-in-law. Suyin glared at Linga. Is it interesting? I'll make it clear to you. Don't joke about this in front of Okubo Chiami. Don't provoke her. Linga said weakly, Brother, did I provoke her? It's you, right? If you don't provoke her, how can she like you? Okay, go to bed early. Tomorrow, we'll take the Buddha's head and leave. Suyin put the Buddha's head back into the secret compartment behind Okubo Kiami's bed. After all, that place was safer. Anyway, it couldn't run away. There was no need to sleep with it in his arms tonight. It made it seem like he didn't trust her. Linga went straight to bed. I really need to sleep early. My head is still buzzing. That hallucinogen is really powerful. You're enjoying life here, but I'm suffering. You think I didn't enjoy the hallucinogen, right? Let me tell you. I was hit as soon as I sneaked into her room. Suyin also lay down. My head is also very dizzy. Go to sleep. When Suyin finished speaking, Linga had already closed his eyes and exhaled softly. It seemed that the hallucinogen had a great effect on him. Thinking about it, it made sense. Otherwise, how could he, an expert who was about to break through the bottleneck of the 9th rank and enter the Grandmaster realm, be so easily dealt with? Thinking of this, Suyin began to be unable to open his eyes. The aftereffects of the hallucinogen were quite strong. If he really brought the Buddha's head back to the hotel today, it would really be unsafe. As he thought about it, Suyin fell into a deep slumber. He slept very soundly. Ever since he came to Japan, Suyin had never slept so soundly. If it wasn't for the fact that the birdsong was so loud the next day, he definitely wouldn't have woken up so early. In the past, Suyin felt that it was very annoying to hear birds chirping outside the window in the morning. But today, he felt that it was very good. This was what it meant to be in touch with nature. The chirping of the birds made him feel at ease. It was all because of his mood. If he was still at a loss about the Buddha's head today, Suyin would probably have taken out his gun and shot all these birds. How long are you going to sleep? Suyin kicked Linga, who was still lying in bed after getting up. Linga said weakly, Io, let's sleep a little longer. Once we wake up, we won't be able to relax like this. Brother, you're my real brother. Think about it, it's still early in this month, even though the sky is already bright. You're a guest here, and you want the host to wake you up. Come on, don't be so insensible. Suyin coaxed as he suddenly lifted Lin Ji's blanket. Io, damn, Linga was so stimulated by the cold wind that he wanted to pee. Sigh. He could only get up unwillingly, because he couldn't fall asleep even if he held it in. Actually, the two of them woke up at just the right time. When they finished washing up, it was already breakfast time. Okubo Chimi was actually going to have breakfast first. After all, the two of them were tired after coming to Japan for a long time. If they slept a little longer, she didn't want to disturb them. She would help them prepare when they woke up. However, Suyin and Linga were already up. This was even better. Okubo Chimi could directly eat with Suyin. Okubo Chimi invited the two of them to have breakfast together. Suyin and Linga were really surprised by the delicacy of the breakfast. It was said that the best time of the day was in the morning. It could be seen that the Japanese were also very particular about breakfast. They definitely wouldn't eat fried dough sticks fried in gutter oil, or soup dumplings steamed with sick pork, right? Okubo Chimi was surprised to see the two of them come out and explained, the breakfast of the Japanese has always been more delicate. Please enjoy. After breakfast, Okubo Chimi also asked the two of them a very important question. How are you going to return to China? This question was very realistic. The merchant ship on the high seas must have already left with the black crows and the cultural relics. They came through irregular means, so it was impossible to buy a ticket in Japan. They could only take the black ship, but it was impossible for the black ship to sail to Hwasia in one go. Moreover, they had to bring such an important golden Buddha head. It was obviously not a wise choice to take the black ship. Su Yin frowned. He could get the Buddha head so easily yesterday. He was so excited that he completely forgot to consider these things. Lin Ge was the same. He was stumped by this question on the spot. It seemed that they could only ask for reinforcements from above. At least find a way to get a ship to pick them up on the high seas. If this was the arrangement, they definitely couldn't leave in 1 or 2 days. They had to wait at least 2 days in Japan to arrange all the routes. We really haven't thought about this. Su Yin smiled helplessly. I was too excited yesterday to think about these problems. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly. If you find someone in China to arrange it for you, I'm afraid it won't be a problem that can be solved in 1 or 2 days. It will definitely take time to coordinate, and it will take time to sail the ship to Japan. So, we may disturb you for 2 more days. Lin Ji's words were answered quickly. Thinking of this, Su Yin felt embarrassed to trouble Okubo Chimi. In fact, I really hope that you can continue to stay here for a while. I will try my best to take time to play with you in Japan. Okubo Chimi said, but I also consider that the Buddha head is very important. You must want to send it back as soon as possible. Su Yin nodded. Yes, he really wanted to send the Buddha head back as soon as possible. So, I have a proposal now. Okubo Chimi said. Although I don't want you to leave today. There will be a ship leaving at noon today. The ship is carrying the car of the car company that our family shares in. Su Yun's eyes lit up. This ship is heading to Tianjin port. It will dock at noon 2 days later. Okubo Chimi said. If you need, I can arrange for someone to take you on board. You can contact the relevant departments in Huaxia. When you get off the ship, don't detain you as illegal immigrants. Su Yin was really grateful to Okubo Chimi. For a moment, he didn't know what words to use to express the gratitude in his heart. This was really meeting a benefactor when he went out. This was definitely the biggest benefactor he had met in Japan. Chimi, there is a saying in Huaxia that no words can express my gratitude. Su Yin. If you need my help in the future, just give me a call. If I delay in the slightest, I'm not a man. This was Su Yun's promise as a man. He felt that he owed Okubo Chimi too much. If he didn't do something for her, he really felt that he shouldn't have done it. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly. I'm really happy that you can say that. Well, if I have a chance to rest for a while, I will definitely go to Huaxia to find you. At that time, can you be responsible for accompanying me all the way? Su Yin patted his chest and promised. Of course, if I can't do it, I won't do it. Okubo Chimi did so much for him, for Huaxia's cultural relics. If he didn't even agree to such a small condition, wouldn't it be too disloyal? I can testify that if my brother doesn't do that, he's not a man. Lin Ge said with a smile. Chapter 2048. Time is always like that. When you want it to go faster, it will go very slowly, making you have the illusion that time is passing like a year. However, when you want it to go slower, you feel that it is like light and electricity, fleeting. Finally, it was time to say goodbye. The cruise ship full of cars that was going to Huaxia would set sail in half an hour. Okubo Chimi personally sent Su Yin and the others to the ship. Lin Ge held the wooden box with the golden Buddha head in his arms, as if he was holding his own child, and he couldn't bear to let it go. Su Yin and Okubo Chimi said goodbye with some reluctance. The gratitude in his heart would really make Su Yin remember it for a lifetime. I can only send you here. If I didn't have something to deal with, I would definitely go to Huaxia with you. Okubo Chimi said half jokingly and half seriously. I hope you won't forget our agreement when you return to Huaxia. I won't. I will never forget. After Su Yin finished speaking, he bowed deeply. This was for the Buddha head. He bowed to Okubo Chimi on behalf of all the cultural relics that had been lost in Huaxia. If there were more people in the world like her who really understood the value of cultural relics, there wouldn't be so many cultural relics lost. Okubo Chimi smiled slightly. Then you can board the ship. I will leave when the ship sets sail. Su Yin nodded. He knew that it was time to go. The longer he refused to say goodbye, the more difficult it would be to part. At this time, a car arrived at the scene. After the person in the car got out, he ran to Okubo Chimi panting. His face was very ugly. Miss Okubo, I called you, but you didn't answer. I knew you were here, so I came. Okubo Chimi's mobile phone was in the bag in the car. She only cared about sending Suyin away. She didn't think about anything else at all, let alone hear the phone. What's wrong? Why are you in such a hurry? Okubo Chimi frowned. Something happened. Something big happened. The man's voice was very anxious. Fortunately, Suyin understood Japanese. He stopped in his tracks and wanted to know what trouble they had encountered. Okubo Chimi's face turned ugly. Are they looking for trouble again? Yes, they're here to cause trouble again. Moreover, they invited 2 experts this time. Our people are no match for them at all. You must go and take a look quickly. Otherwise, the situation will become more serious. Okubeo-san, we don't have anyone strong enough to fight against those 2. I'm afraid that this time we'll really. Although Okubo Chimi's face was very ugly, she still maintained her calm. Don't worry, there will be a way. We will find a way. Now it's really. Sigh. That person looked quite upset. What else could he do? Unless there was an even more powerful expert to stand up and help them solve the problem. There was no other way to solve it. Suyin turned around. What's the trouble? Okubo Chimi was slightly startled. She looked at the time. It was more than 10 minutes before the ship left. The cruise ship sounded its horn again. It's nothing. I wish you a smooth journey. I won't wait for the ship to leave. I'm really sorry. From her words, Suyin could tell that she must have encountered something troublesome. Otherwise, she wouldn't be in such a hurry to leave and not wait for more than 10 minutes. Suyin suddenly turned back to Lin Gu and said, Pigeon, new orders. You take the Buddha's head and leave first. I've already arranged everything after we reach the shore. The chief will arrange for someone to meet you. I'll go back later. Lin Gu and Okubo Chimi were both stunned. After a little hesitation, Lin Gu nodded seriously. I promise to complete the task. Brother, you can rest assured and stay to help Okubeo-san solve the problem. I'll take care of the Buddha's head. Even if I'm gone, I'll definitely hand the Buddha's head to the chief personally. What nonsense are you talking about? Suyin said helplessly. Go. Yes. Lin Gu finished speaking and boarded the ship without looking back. Okubo Chimi hadn't come back to her senses until now. The cruise ship's horn sounded again and woke her up. Suyin, you should go back and complete your task. Why are you? Lin Gu will protect the thing, and there won't be any danger after boarding the ship. Suyin smiled. But you're in trouble. If I don't save you at this time, then I'm not a man now. After that, Suyin patted Okubo Chimi's shoulder, indicating that she shouldn't panic. Everything has a solution. Okubo Chimi was so moved at this moment that she almost cried. Ever since her parents passed away 2 years ago, no one had been able to step forward and help her when she needed help the most. She could only help herself, and she could only grit her teeth and survive one difficulty after another. No one could understand her hard work in the past 2 years, really. But today was different. When she was once again in such a hopeless situation, a man stood up for her without hesitation and stepped forward bravely. Suyun's simple decision gave her so much encouragement and moved her. This was something that no one else could understand. This feeling made Okubo Chimi return to 2 years ago. 2 years ago, no matter what kind of trouble she encountered, what kind of problem she couldn't solve, her father would always stand behind her and gently pat her on the shoulder, telling her that he was still here. Today, Suyin also patted her on the shoulder. This hand seemed to have magic, instantly filling her body with strength. After all, Okubo Chimi was a girl. No matter how strong she was at this moment, she couldn't hold back and shed tears. In fact, this was the truest portrayal of her. She was just a girl in her 20s. She had her weaknesses, but life made her unable to show her weaknesses. She could only use a thick disguise to wrap up all her weaknesses. She could only bury her real heartache and tears deep in her heart. No one had seen Okubo Chimi's tears in the past 2 years. She always thought that her tears had dried up forever with the departure of her parents. But at this moment, she knew that when there was a strong shoulder and chest for her to rely on, She was still the fragile and naive girl in the past. She could still unscrupulously reveal everything in her heart that was seen as weakness by others. Soo-yeon, thank you. Okubo Chimi didn't care about the eyes of the people around her. She directly threw herself into Soo-yeon's arms. This man was her strongest support at this moment. He was her most trustworthy support at this moment. Soo-yeon gently hugged Okubo Chimi's shoulder and whispered to her, "There are a lot of people here. You can't let them see your tears. If you want to cry, when the trouble is solved and we return home, I will lend you my shoulder for as long as you want." Okubo Chimi was amused by Soo-yeon's words. Yes, Soo-yeon was right. She couldn't cry. She wanted outsiders to see her strength. And her gentleness, her weakness. She would only leave it to the man she fell in love with. Chapter 2049. After getting in the car, Soo-yeon began to ask about the specific situation. He definitely had to figure out the cause of the matter first. What kind of trouble did Okubo Chimi get into? This was a very important question now. Soo-yeon, you should also be able to see that in addition to regular business, the Okubo family is also involved in the underworld and violent forces. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bodyguards with me at all times. Okubo Chimi said, "This is not a rare thing in Japan." "So it's the Yakuza that caused you trouble?" Soo-yeon smiled slightly. "Don't worry. Don't they like to use violence to curb violence? Well, then let's use violence to curb violence. Let's see whose fist is harder." Okubo Chimi's eyes were filled with worship and worry. They repeatedly harassed us but failed, so they hired an expert. If it wasn't an expert, I really wouldn't be interested in playing with them. Soo-yeon grinned. He knew that the Japanese police couldn't handle this kind of thing. Japan was a country that recognized such forces and organizations. This had something to do with their history, because after World War II, Japan's laws were not perfect and society was chaotic. At this time, the Yakuza stood up to curb violence with violence. Later, the law was enacted, and the existence of the Yakuza was somewhat inconsistent. However, after all, the Yakuza used their own methods to manage Japan for a period of time. The Yakuza could be considered to have contributed to Japan. Moreover, the Yakuza in Japan weren't lawless. They were the same as employees. If they broke the law, they would be punished. Although the ones who were punished were usually the underlings who stepped forward to take the blame for their boss. Speaking of which, Japan was somewhat similar to Huasia's Hong Kong and Macau. Anyone who had seen Young and Dangerous would know that the people there were also working for the company. It was just that when they did things, they did not use peaceful means, but violent means. In fact, the Yakuza in Japan itself was a deeply rooted part of Japanese society. Although the Japanese government also wanted to crack down on the Yakuza, in the end, it didn't have a decisive effect. The Yakuza were the same as the scammers, construction companies, and corrupt politicians. They were the three major diseases of Japanese society. It was definitely not something that could be solved in a short time. The Okubo family's business was so large, and their family was so complicated, so it was natural for them to be involved in such matters. Of course, the Okubo family would never admit that they were involved in the mafia, but in reality, they had their own subordinates and forces, as well as mafia organizations that they had good relationships with and bad relationships with. Even if Japan introduced anti-mafia laws, it still couldn't stop the fact that the mafia in Japan was getting bigger and bigger. There were plenty of people who had established their own companies, and some of them were even located right next to the police station. The arrogant Yamaguchi-gumi was like this. The police station was right next door, and there was even a big sign at the entrance of their headquarters. It said that child labor was prohibited, drug trafficking was prohibited, cigarette butts were prohibited, and so on. On the 5th day of every month, luxury cars would bring all the leaders of the mafia from all over Japan here for a monthly meeting. The police were aware of their meetings, but never took any action against them. Actually, a lot of the things that the Japanese mafia did were related to people with good identities. They themselves wouldn't do evil, but rather, it was those people with good identities who ordered them to do what they did. Many large, legitimate companies would hire the mafia to deal with dissidents. This was a very, very common occurrence in Japan. The mafia could even help the government take care of problems, such as disrupting labor unions' strikes or demonstrations, or protecting businesses from other mafia organizations. For example, a while ago, the Japanese government wanted to build a highway in an area, but the people living in the area refused to move. The government contracted the project to a large construction company, and the large company subcontracted the project to a small real estate company. In the end, someone would call the mafia and ask them to kick out the residents who refused to move. The government was aware of all of this. To use a professional term, this was called extreme symbiosis. When the government that maintained the country's peace and security combined with the mafia that destroyed peace and happiness, it was called extreme symbiosis. In private, it was common for mafia bosses and senior politicians to call each other brothers. The mafia bosses' weddings and funerals would also be attended by politicians. One reason for the existence of extreme symbiosis was that both the mafia and the government believed that even if it was all a crime, the mafia was better than the lawless street gangsters. This was the most important thing for Japan, which paid attention to order. That was why the current situation existed. What was the reason for the trouble? Suyin asked again. To put it bluntly, it was because of the politician's family. Some time ago, Abe said some shocking words at the internal courtship meeting of the reporters. He said some particularly troublesome words, such as the security bill was aimed at the Huaxia in the South China Sea. He also admitted that he was indeed planning a war with the Huaxia. He also said that he would work with the U.S. Imperial Army to defeat the Huaxia in the South China Sea. Okubo Chiami shook her head helplessly. Later, the Prime Minister's official residence repeatedly threatened the media not to disclose what he said to the public. But in the end, it couldn't be hidden. Suyin really didn't know how much this little Abe drank. How drunk was he to say this? Otherwise, who gave him the courage to say these words? Could it be the legendary hero of Japan, Ultraman? What the F***ck? Suyin really wanted to go to little Abe and give him 2 big slaps to see what kind of shocking words he could say. Abe is really extreme. He's really not afraid of things getting out of hand. Suyin. I don't understand. The U.S. Imperial Army clearly treats him as a dog planted in the East, but he treats himself as a good friend of the U.S. Imperial Army and barks all day long. Nowadays, when you beat a dog, you don't look at the owner anymore. You have to look at the faces of those dog lovers. Doesn't he know that? Okubo Kiami's expression was very helpless. She didn't seem to be in the mood to joke with Suyin. After I learned of his remarks, someone raised this issue at a press conference. I expressed my opposition to this concept. As a result, a bridge project in the southern part of the district was under pressure from all sides. This matter was also a headache for Okubo Chiami. The bridge project was an agreement between her and the government. If the project couldn't be handed over on time, she would pay the government liquidated damages more than the project cost. After all, the Okubo family was a big family. No yakuza dared to make trouble. Even if there was, everyone could have a meal together and talk it out. It could be settled with some money. However, after Okubo Chiami publicly criticized Abe, the project was harassed many times. No one from the government came forward to help her. Every time, she dealt with it herself. However, the people who harassed her were getting more and more powerful. Each time more and more powerful. It seriously affected the progress of the project. If this problem wasn't completely solved, then whether the bridge project could be completed on time would become a very big problem. Once the government's requirements were not met according to the agreement, she would suffer a very big setback. Golden bridges and silver roads, the whole world knew how profitable it was to build this thing. But if it couldn't be done, the amount of the project costs would be quite huge. Even the Okubo family would find it difficult to bear. Okubo Chimi didn't want some people's schemes to succeed, so she gritted her teeth and didn't give up. She couldn't let people defeat her so easily. She vowed to let people know that she, Okubo Chiami, was a woman with a strong heart. She would never let people bully her. Chapter 2050. This bridge was a cable-stayed bridge that crossed the canal in the south of the district. 2/3 of the project had been completed. According to the normal progress of the work, there would be no problem. The bridge would be completed within the contract period. However, now that people were constantly coming to find trouble, the progress of the bridge construction had to be slowed down. Many workers were often injured, which made many people unwilling to participate in this project. The reduction of workers naturally affected the progress of the project. Today, the other party was even more excessive. Hundreds of workers were not spared. All of them were injured. Even the minor injuries were bruises on their arms caused by tools, such as reinforced iron pipes. Those who were seriously injured were bleeding profusely. 2 of them were even on the verge of death. These people were really ruthless. Of course, the Okubo clan wouldn't just swallow this humiliation. Their people also rose up to resist. Since they were going to use violence, then let's see who was more violent and who wasn't tainted by the dark side. This fight was chaotic. Hundreds of people waved their swords at each other on the bridge construction site. Some people were directly pushed into the canal. It was not known if they could swim. If they could not swim, they were really not suitable for the Yakuza in Japan. They were not hacked to death but drowned. This was shameful. Although the thugs under the Okubo family rose up to resist and achieved good results, 2 fierce people suddenly appeared from the other side's camp. It was almost 1 move per person. All of them were wiped out in a short time. This one-sided situation could not be reversed at all. The other party's people said that they wanted to see Okubo Chimi. Otherwise, this project could no longer continue. Obviously, these people were related to the damn Abe family. That guy must have done this in order to retaliate against Okubo Chimi. After all, Okubo Chimi's public remarks against him would have a great impact on his public support. Because of this reason, the Abe family must vigorously retaliate against Okubo Chimi and let her know that some things could not be said casually. The political family colluded with the Yakuza family. This was a very obvious manifestation of extreme integration. Finally, Okubo Chiaki's car arrived at the scene of the accident. The people at the scene saw Okubo Chiaki's car and ignited the last breath of anger in their hearts, but this anger was quickly extinguished, because they knew that it was impossible for Okubo to turn the tide by herself. She could straighten her back and communicate with the other party on the premise that they couldn't lose so miserably. At the very least, they had to fight to a draw with the other party. Now that they had suffered such a crushing defeat, what right did Miss Okubo have to negotiate with them? Okubo Chimi and Suyin got out of the car, and everyone got up to greet them. Seeing so many brothers injured like this and not going to the hospital, Okubo Chimi felt really bad. These people were absolutely loyal to the Okubo family. Even if they were injured, they would stay here. They were afraid that she would be hurt by the other party's people when she arrived. Among these people were the 2 bodyguards who had been with Okubo Chimi yesterday. In fact, early this morning, Okubo Chimi knew that there would be a problem at the construction site. The other party usually came to find trouble once every 15 days. If it weren't for Okubo Chimi, who felt that it was more important to send Suyin away, she would have come here early in the morning. Since she couldn't come, she arranged for her 2 most powerful bodyguards to come. However, these 2 bodyguards were also defeated with bruises on their faces. It wasn't that they weren't strong enough, but that the other party was too strong. The strength of the other party's 2 masters was far beyond them, so the 2 bodyguards, who had always been able to lead their men to defeat the other party's members, also suffered a crushing defeat today. The 2 of them were very depressed. They were absolutely sorry for Okubo Chimi's trust. They received so much money every month, but they couldn't even settle such a small matter. It was really shameful. Okubo Chimi didn't mean to blame them. After all, they had done their best. They had done their best. Sometimes some things couldn't be forced. They had done everything they could, so what was there to blame them for? The other party's people had already occupied the engineering work area. When they saw Okubo Chimi appear, the leader stood up and said, "Miss Okubo, we meet again." This man was called Nakatu Kanzuya, and he was the second in command of the famous Yuwa Society in Japan. In the Yuwa Society, he was definitely second only to one person. Other than the Yuwa Society president, he was the idol of everyone in the Yuwa Society. Nakata Kanzuya's appearance was considered very handsome among the Japanese. His height of 1.75 meters was far higher than the average height of 1.53 meters. In addition, he was capable of doing things. When he fought, he was obviously the type of person who was tall, rich, handsome, and ruthless. This was the fourth time the Iwakai had come to find trouble with them. The first 3 times had ended in failure. This time, Nakata Kanzuya had personally come with his men. It could be said that he wanted to wash away his previous shame. The people of the Okubo family were completely defeated. The last time Okubo Chimi met Nakata Kanzuya was at a charity party. She was very surprised to see people from a purely Yakuza organization like the Iwakai at a charity party. Nakata Kanzuya was a very romantic person. When he saw a beautiful woman, he naturally couldn't take his eyes off her. With Okubo Chimi's height, she was definitely the kind of person who stood out among the Japanese beauties. Her delicate face was even more beautiful. Ordinary girls couldn't be compared to her at all. At the party, Nakata Kanzuya tried to find opportunities to talk to Okubo Chimi many times. Okubo Chimi only responded out of courtesy and face. She didn't like these purely Yakuza organizations because they didn't do anything serious. I didn't expect to see you in such a situation. Okubo Chimi's expression was very unfriendly, and her words were also very cold. Nakata Kanzuya, how many times has your Iwakai come to find trouble with me? Does your president have to shed all pretense of cordiality with my Okubo family? Nakata Kanzuya smiled. Miss Okubo, it's not my intention to come here to find trouble with you. I really don't want to do this. It's a big sin to make a beauty angry. But I can't help it. I have to do what the president wants me to do. After a pause, Nakata Kanzuya continued. In fact, the president doesn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Miss Okubo. But it's better to be hostile with the Okubo family than to be hostile with another family. I know that the Abe family arranged for you to come here. There's nothing to hide. Okubo Chimi said coldly. What do you want to do to be willing to give up? Nakata Kanzuya smiled bitterly. If you can have dinner with me, I'll let go of everything. But it's hard to say with our president. We're paid to solve problems. When this project is over, we won't bother you anymore. At that time, I'll personally invite Miss Okubo to a banquet. I'll definitely pour wine to apologize, okay? Haven't you guys thought that if the project is delayed, I won't be the only one to suffer losses? How many Japanese will suffer losses? Okubo Chimi said. You guys are really unreasonable. You're really despicable. Nakata Kanzuya was scolded, but he wasn't angry at all. Yes, it's despicable, but I really have no choice. Miss Okubo, it's not that I want to be despicable, but I have no choice. Please forgive me. Okubo Chimi was trembling with anger. These people were really hateful. Chapter 2051. Suyin stepped forward and signaled Okubo Chimi not to lower herself to the other party's level. For this kind of person, the more you give him face, the more he will give you face. The best way to deal with this kind of person is to not give him face. Just slap him until he can't speak. Then he will be honest. Are you going to stay here all the time? Suyin smiled and said to Nakata Kanzuya, Are you not leaving? Have you ordered box lunches? If not, I'll order some for you. Nakata Kanzuya was startled. Looking at the unfamiliar face in front of him, he didn't know who he was at all. But if he could be so close to Okubo Chimi, he shouldn't be a small character, right? But even if he wasn't a small character, so what? Nakata Kanzuya even dared to provoke Okubo Chimi and the entire Okubo family. Of course, he didn't care who the person in front of him was. He had a master around him, so he had nothing to fear. You know how to be a person. Nakata Kanzuya said. Since you are so enthusiastic, I won't refuse. How many people do we have? You can count yourself. Everyone can order one. I'm happy to eat anywhere with Miss Okubo accompanying me. Suyin nodded. Okay, then I'll order a meal for you. The highest standard box lunches. That's good enough. Good enough. Nakata Kanzuya smiled. This guy was quite interesting. Okubo Chimi didn't understand. What was Suyin doing here? How could he be friends with Nakata Kanzuya? He even ordered boxed lunches for them. Did he really want them to stay here and waste time? Soo-yin knew the importance of time, but now he had no choice but to delay. After all, the workers were all injured. If he wanted to find people at the last minute, he had to completely convince these people. Otherwise, the people who came would still be harassed by these people. So what Soo-yin had to do was to completely convince them. My boxed lunches are a bit expensive. I don't know if you can afford it. Soo-yin also smiled at Nakata Kanzuya. Nakata Kanzuya was stunned. Was this guy a boxed lunchbox salesman? Charge. What kind of joke is this? Don't you know that they are a mafia-like organization? Charging them is just asking for trouble. Really? Then I'll let my men tell you. You should consider whether we can afford it. Nakata Kanzuya gave his men a look. The men beside him immediately understood Nakata Kanzuya's intention and walked toward Soo-yin. As long as they gave him a lesson, he would know if they could handle it. When this person walked in front of Soo-yin and didn't have time to make a move, Soo-yin unexpectedly made the first move. Soo-yin suddenly raised his knee and struck the man's lower abdomen. When the man bent over in pain, Soo-yin locked the man's arms behind his back. With two cruel cracking sounds, Soo-yin directly tied the man's hands behind his back. This move, this strength, this brutality. In an instant, the whole scene was shocked by Soo-yin and completely quiet. Even Nakata Kanzuya was stunned. If the cigarette in his hand hadn't burned his fingers, he wouldn't have reacted so quickly. This is a chicken wing set. Look, how is it? It's pretty good, right? Soo-yin was very satisfied with his work, but the guy whose arms were broken was in unbearable pain. The intense pain almost suffocated him. And when he was finally able to make a sound, that extremely tragic cry of pain directly penetrated the most terrifying part of everyone's heart. Okubo Chiami was also surprised and couldn't say a word. Soo-yin did tell her on the way that he was going to use the simplest way to help her solve the problem, using violence to curb violence, but she didn't expect Soo-yin to make a move so suddenly. After all, there weren't many people on their side who could still fight. Was he going to take on nearly 100 people alone? Who else? The next one is the braised pork trotters set. Soo-yin smiled slightly, without any pressure at all. Kill him for me. Nakata Kanzuya's eyes turned red on the spot, and he let out a hysterical shout. How dare he show his strength in front of him? He definitely wouldn't let this person leave here alive. Definitely not. Nearly 100 people received the order, and took out the weapons in their hands. A few people who were closer to Soo-yin had already rushed up recklessly. Soo-yin nimbly dodged the weapons that were swung at him, and swept them to the ground with an army sweep. Then another person raised his leg and kicked Soo-yin. Soo-yin didn't dodge but grabbed the other person's ankle and suddenly twisted his forearm. The other person screamed, and the ankle that was grabbed by Soo-yin instantly swelled up like a bun. The bone was twisted out of shape by Soo-yin. Braised pork trotters. After saying that, Soo-yin raised his leg and kicked the person's other thigh. With a crack, the person's entire crotch split open. Only then did Soo-yin throw away the braised pork trotters. The person who enjoyed the second set of lunchboxes definitely suffered more than the person who enjoyed the first set of lunchboxes. Whether or not he could walk upright in the future would be a problem. Seeing that nearly 100 people had surrounded him, Soo-yin didn't panic at all. He easily dodged all the attacks from the other party, and then gave away all the Yuseong shredded pork box lunchboxes, braised oxtail box lunchboxes. Every person who received Soo-yin's box lunchboxes all rolled on the ground in agony. Soon nearly 100 people were all dead. This scene of wailing and mourning was indeed frightening. Okubo Chimi was completely shocked. She couldn't help but think that if Soo-yin had really snatched the Buddha's head and ran away yesterday, even if all the people in her family were mobilized, they probably wouldn't have been able to stop him. The two bodyguards beside Okubo Chimi had always thought that they were very good at fighting. They could be considered to be almost invincible in Japan, but they were completely convinced. Seeing that there were only 5 people left standing out of nearly 100 people, the courage of the 5 people was completely shattered by Soo-yin. Their legs and stomachs were weak. How were they supposed to fight? The other party was simply a pervert. The people who were beaten up had fractures. For example, the braised fishbox lunchboxes were directly in shock. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Nakata Kanzuya's jaw couldn't close at all. Was he possessed by Ultraman? One move, one person. Although it was a very simple move, every move could make 2 or even 3 to 5 of his subordinates lie down in front of him. These people were the best fighters he had carefully selected under his command, and they were all defeated by the other party alone. Su-Yun clapped his hands and looked at the remaining 5 people with a smile. The remaining 5 people didn't even think about it and ran away. This straight line running towards Nakata Kanzuya gave Su-Yun a very good idea. Nakata Kanzuya. What? Su-Yun scratched his head. Forget it, I'll give you a Tonghulu box lunchbox. Su-Yun strode forward and kicked the last person who had short legs and slow legs. That person's body was like a cannonball that directly blasted towards the person in front of him. The 5 people were hit one by one just like that. In the end, they crashed heavily towards Nakata Kanzuya. If it weren't for the fact that each of the 5 people increased a certain amount of resistance, and that Nakata Kanzuya reacted quickly and dodged quickly, this would definitely be enough for him to endure. Su-Yun sighed. It was as if he was bowling and almost hit all the pins. Such a good Tonghulu box lunchbox was thrown to the ground by you. It's too wasteful not to try it. I put in a lot of effort to make it. Nakata Kanzuya looked at Su-Yun and couldn't say a word. For a moment, shock, trembling, fear, anger, all of them surged into his heart. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.